gals, and welcome to another Tuesday at We Read It One Night, the podcast where two sisters invite you to join the romance revolution. In today's episode, we're back on our Twilight Saga bullshit with New Moon by Stephenie Meyer. We show our true Team Edward versus Team Jacob colors, pitch a great idea for a vampire winery, and mourn the hopefully temporary loss of our TikTok to the Menimus horde. Enjoy the show.
Terrible news, everyone. I'm sure you've all been eagerly following our TikTok. But on Monday, we got permanently banned out of nowhere. And I don't know. I was
Monday, April 25th.
When we got taken that hate speech thing, I was freaking out, and then it got put back up less than a day later. But now with this, for some reason, I'm just so much more I don't know. This is just so absurd that I just can't even it's now been a week.
I thought it was a prank at first from you because you were so calm about it. Because I didn't hear wailing outside my bedroom door. I was surely Rachel was so insane the last time that she would just have combusted from this. I literally thought you photoshopped it and sent it as a joke.
So it said it was for multiple violations of the community guidelines, which I don't think we've violated any community guidelines. But what makes me hopeful, the thing is, they don't permanently ban you with no warning unless you do something really bad. And I am 100% sure we haven't endangered any children on our TikTok, hopefully. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll get cleared up. There's nothing we can do besides continuing to try to
Our
contact.
assumption upon the advisement of Stefan, our younger brother, who is familiar with these spaces, was that the Menimus who reported us for hate speech for saying that men aren't funny got together and mass reported a bunch of our videos arbitrarily.
Yeah, all it would take is one 12-year-old getting annoyed and asking his Discord whatever server to report random videos.
I didn't think of Discord because I was trying to see whether I could find the Reddit thread or the 4chan thread. Discord makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that's all it would take. Is reporting us for something really terrible, and then we'd automatically get taken down.
Yeah. The TikTok permanent banning is not the only way that I have personally been victimized this week. The other day, someone on Facebook who's one of the few people our age who still uses Facebook to post her thoughts and feelings regularly, so it's always entertaining. She was Scooby Doo Zombie Island is the best animated Scooby Doo movie ever, and Scooby Doo Zombie Island
is not
is
animated.
Terrifying. Yeah, wait, yeah, no.
Oh, sorry.
I'm thinking of Scooby Doo Spooky Island. I'm thinking of Scooby Doo Zombie Island, in which the zombies are real zombies. It's not some guy a silly guy in a mask. They're real fucking zombies. And I remember being so terrified of that movie as a child. Raise your hand if you too were personally victimized by Scooby Doo Zombie Island. I was I saw that and I was how I haven't felt the urge to post anything on Facebook in years, but this I literally was I'm about to get into a comment war with this girl because that movie is so triggering for me. It's horrible. Oh my god.
Third Eye Blind contributes to the soundtrack, apparently.
Of course they do. Scooby Doo always had the best soundtrack. That's a given.
Wow.
You don't even have to think.
I'm sorry.
Let me know. I feel if you like that movie, I just feel this podcast may not be the one for you. I don't know whether I can associate with people who are not terrified of Scooby Doo Zombie Island. To be fair, I haven't watched it since the first time when I was 8, but I still don't
it's
scary
Animorphs.
Movies.
If you're into Animorphs, then
they're listen, the premise of Scooby Doo is that it's all fake. The premise of Scooby Doo is you're trying to figure out what creepy man living in the haunted house next door is trying to steal the land by dressing up as a goon. Okay, that's the premise of Scooby Doo. It's not real fucking zombies. There's real fucking black magic going on. Also, I think werecats as well. I think that movie also may have werecats or some sort of witch thing. I don't know. Speaking of were animals. Today we're talking about New Moon by Stephenie Meyer, the much anticipated sequel to our series on Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. And also just the much anticipated sequels to Twilight, the book itself, not just our episodes on it.
Yeah.
But that book has a lot of werewolves in it. The werewolves are members of the Quileute tribe. Once again, I'm here to say that the Quileute tribe was exploited for Stephenie Meyer's storytelling. So if you enjoy Twilight and if you enjoy these episodes, please donate to the Quileute Move to Higher Ground Fund. Because something that I learned after reading through their website more after we did our first episode is that the Quileute, like, it's not just like, oh, like, we don't want our buildings to be destroyed, like, in case of a tsunami, which is like already objectively horrible. It's like, we literally, with the way the roads work in that area, do not have enough time to evacuate the school, the elderly center, or all the administrative buildings.
Wow.
If there is a tsunami. Like, the warning doesn't, like, they don't have time to escape. So help move the Quileute Reservation to higher ground by donating to the Higher Ground Fund, which will be linked in the description of this podcast episode, wherever you listen.
Mm-hmm. Let's permanently ban the tsunamis from destroying the reservation. As it were. So, all right, New Moon. Can I just say that this book is like probably tied for my favorite Twilight book. Like the first
There's
3
only
quarters.
4 Twilight books. What do you mean tie?
Well, like the first 3 quarters of Twilight, I would say it's like my favorite, but also like the last 7/8 of New Moon. Like, I don't know. They're kind of like almost equal. But the beginning of this book is just like boppity bop bop. And I'm like, you know what? We should have just cut this. Just replaced it with one sentence. Edward is a little bitch. So we open up.
We're welcomed back to the sweet embrace of the Twilight world with, you guessed it, friends, a Romeo and Juliet quote. No shocking there. And an action-packed prologue, the classic YA prologue, where Bella's running through a crowd. And you're like, oh my God, Bella's running. This is already horrifying. But then, like, somebody's going to die. So, like, that they're, the extra tension.
God.
But, like, first of all, you're like, oh my God, Bella's going to trip. She's going to crack her head open on the pavement. And that's going to be the end.
Yep.
So, yeah, you spend the whole book really just in tension of, like, whether Bella
is going to make it die.
She's gonna make it wherever she's running to. Who knows?
What else is new? Bella's gonna die. That's what we were talking about. So I made the mistake of like Googling something from this book, and it brought up like articles. I don't know. I forget how. I don't know. 1-star reviews on Goodreads. Whatever. Somehow I came across that like Stephen King quote.
Looking at this book on
trashing Stephenie Meyer. And he's like, Stephenie Meyer just isn't a good writer. Like blah blah blah. And like you said, like.
It's like the classic, like, J.K. Rowling teaches young girls about bravery and friendship. Twilight teaches you how important it is to have a boyfriend.
Yeah, but like, let me just emphasize that, like, if there's one theme of Twilight, it's like being completely selfless, like selfless bravery, to the point where like Harry and Harry Potter, he does dangerous shit like every book, but he only goes to his sure death once in the 7th book, right? Bella does it every fucking book. Like, she's literally like, I'm 100% gonna die. And you know what? I don't fucking care, because I only care about the people I love. I don't care about myself. I'm going to go and I'm going to literally 100% die. And then just like by some, act of God, she doesn't die. But like, what? Like, I don't know. Yeah. That's just, I mean, we don't need a rehash.
Listen, you can criticize again Twilight all you want for like the unhealthy relationships plural it portrays. But like, I don't know. I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know. Twilight is like pretty feminist, just in how like Bella, like, I don't know, she's not a damsel in distress. And also, I saw a tweet recently that was talking about how like, like, I get how we're trying to make heroines with like agency and like, you don't want to just be like the damsel in distress. You don't want to just like write women that are just the damsel in distress all the times. But they were like, listen, sometimes I literally just want to like sit and look pretty while like a man comes to rescue me. Like, sometimes I want I just want someone to be like, hey, you don't have to have it together and be competent all the time. Like, I can come help you. Like,
yeah, and there's nothing wrong
with that. I feel like
that's
the fantasy sometimes.
Right. But that's not this book. Like, the entire thing is Bella being like, I'm just going to completely disregard, like, I don't know, which might not be healthy either, but You can't.
Oh no, Bella wanting to constantly like, Bella, I'm not suicidal swan. Wanting to constantly like, being constantly ready to like die at any moment
At the
for
drop of a
like
hat,
for like the random old lady she sees every day at the grocery store, just like anyone at all
Oh, for
times ready
sure.
to
For
die.
sure.
Like definitely not the healthiest way to approach life.
She also, to be fair, definitely be willing to sacrifice that old lady if it made like Edward happy, but whatever.
Oh, for sure. But this book is also like the whole book is like Bella like getting like self-confidence in herself and like seeing her own like worth as well. Because that's the whole journey. Because like she starts out this book being like, I don't know why Edward's with me. I'm so lucky that he's with me because he's so perfect and I'm like dumb. And at the end of the book, she's like, no, fuck that. I deserve
like Edward's
love.
a little Edward's
Edward's a
sweet.
little bitch boy. I love
Fuck
him.
out, yeah.
But we're on the same level, okay? Yeah.
God, he's so fucking dramatic.
Yeah.
So we open up with Bella having this like dream where she's talking to her grandmother, who for some reason is dead, even though Renee had Bella really young. So like, whatever. The grandma's dead and also old. So like, she must have had Renee at the age of like 50 or 60. I don't know. And Bella thinks she's talking to the grandmother.
Spoiled.
Yeah, because she was like a miracle baby or something. And then Edward walks out, and Bella's like, "No, Gran." They're in the sun. They're in the meadow, and Bella's like, "No, don't come out. Gran will see you." But then she realizes Edward comes over and like puts his arm around her, and she's looking in a miror because she's old. And then she wakes up,
turning 18.
Screaming as you do. Yeah, it's her 18th birthday.
Wait, I want to say some things about this dreams. First of all, she realizes that she's dreaming almost immediately. But she's like, I have two pieces of evidence, and I'm going to state them in order of importance, of clues that are giving me that I'm dreaming. One, it's sunny. And I'm like, Bella just can't resist even dreaming an opportunity to roast Forks. Like that, the most important piece of evidence is that it is sunny in this meadow. She's like, this can't be Forks. There's too much sun here. The second is she's like, oh yeah, my grandma, who has been dead for 6 years, is also here. But that is significantly less important as a clue than the fact that it is sunny. And I'm like, God damn it, Bella. It's been like 3 pages and you're already going after Forks again. Also, she compares her grandma to a dried apricot.
Oh my God. Which, like, again, how old could she possibly have been? Anyway, because she dies when Bella's like 5, right? Or like young, like not.
No, she died like 6 years ago.
Oh, okay. Right. You just said that. Yeah.
That's what she said.
But anyway, I don't want to do the math on that. Anyway, Bella's like freaking out. And as per usual, she's like, I hate my birthday. I'm going to be older than Edward. I don't want any gifts. And as per usual, everyone ignores her wishes because Edward fundamentally does not understand Bella at all. And neither does Alice.
No one does. However, listen, I know Edward and Bella are super unhealthy, but it's just really cute how like immediately happy both of them get like when they see each other at school. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like she pulls up and they're just immediately, she's like, oh my God, like my day is immediately made. Like, this is it. I've seen Edward. And like Edward clearly feels the same way. I don't know. They're just like so, and this is why I'm so bitter that we didn't get the soft summer. Bella's like, yeah, we had a great summer where we just like hung out together all summer, every day. And I'm like, Stephenie, where's the bonus scene? Why didn't I get this?
Yeah. Bella just spends so much time being like tense and like worried around Edward though. Like,
yeah, but that changes. Like the point of this book is to get her to stop acting like that all the time. Like to get her to like see her own self-worth and be able to like roast Edward at every opportunity.
Maybe. I just feel like compared to how we'll get there, but like how she is with Jacob, at least like for the first, 3/4 of the book.
Yeah, until Jacob also becomes a manipulative dickwad.
Yeah, but Jacob like at least actually understands her, like he's actually good at reading people because he can't just rely on his mind reading. No, he does. It's like said multiple times. It's like he actually like,
I mean, I'll talk about this later, but my whole thing is like the only reason Jacob bothers to understand her is because he wants to get in her pants.
Well, sure, but Edward doesn't even bother. So, okay, so basically they pressure her into like having a party tonight at the Collins house. So before the party, they have to watch Romeo and Juliet for school for some reason. And Bella loves Romeo and Juliet. And we get throughout this book, we're just hit over the head with the fact that Stephenie Meyer is definitely one of those people who thinks Romeo and Juliet is like the best, most romantic story ever. And you can like Romeo and Juliet, but like for whatever reason, but it's not a romance. Like it's just fundamentally, I don't even think that was the point, frankly. But
it's called, the full title is the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet.
I I know. But I'm saying
Literally
like
in the title.
even taking away the ending, it's like not they're 13 and 15.
No, I know. Anyway, but wait, about the presents thing. Edward's like, "Why can't I give you presents?" in the movie, and Bella, we have this great line, and this is like the same. Bella has the same attitude. We don't get this iconic line. She's like, "Oh, I don't have anything to give you," and then Edward is like, "Bella, you give me everything just by breathing." And I just like imagine being another like student in Forks High School who's like walking by and like hears that shit, and you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like you know that like Bella and Edward are like the weird couple that everybody makes fun of at sleepovers. Like,
Yep. Also in the movie, Bella's like, "Oh, like I'm 18," and Edward's like, "That's not very old. Like I'm 109." And she's like, "Maybe I shouldn't be dating an old man. It's gross." Like I'm like, "Oh, you said it, not me, Bella." You said it.
interesting. But this Romeo and Juliet that they're watching, so I'm assuming, I think they're watching the 1960s Romeo and Juliet, like it's confirmed in the text. The 1960s Romeo and Juliet, for those of you who for some reason didn't watch that, like every other high schooler in high school, has a Romeo played by someone who is definitely like Zac Efron, like who time traveling, like he literally looks exactly like Zac Efron. And there's also a scene, so Romeo and Juliet, they have sex, obviously not like on screen, but like there's like a pan up of like Romeo's like naked butt and then his like naked back, like right after like they cut away to the sex scene. And my ninth grade English teacher was a nun. And so she was just like extra, like she was an ex-nun. She was an ex-nun. She'd left the nunnery, the nun service. She was an ex-nun. So she was like extra, like, you know, woo. And she tried to fast forward through that part. But she didn't know. So for those of you who don't remember the days of VHS, like when you fast forward through something on a VHS, if you don't want it to like still show up on the screen, you have to like stop, then fast forward, then play. If you like just start fast forwarding, it'll just be everything really fast. So that's what it does. She just like fast forwarded, but it was just naked Romeo, like really really fast.
See, that's funny because I was just
flustered.
like, I remember my teacher being like, "Yeah, and there's gonna be like a scene of like Romeo being like really hot or something."
We had really different experiences.
God.
But she was literally trying to like cover this, like put her hands. She was like, "Oh no," like flailing with the remote, and we're all like, 14 years old, like cracking up.
Why was she an ex-nun then? I feel like
I don't know. She was an ex-nun. That's all. Here's my thing. I say that. I never got any confirmation about that, but that was like the prevailing rumor about her.
So Bella's like, Romeo was one of my favorite fictional characters. Until I met Edward, I'd sort of had a thing for him. Like, what is there to have a thing for? Whatever.
Romeo's a 16-year-old dweeb. That's the whole point of the show. Is that they're children.
And so they're watching it. Bella like is crying, and Edward's like, "Oh, like I don't know. Romeo's pretty dumb, but like I am kind of jealous of him." And Bella's like, "Oh yeah, Juliet is pretty hot. Like I can see why you'd be jealous." And he's like, "No," in like classic melodramatic Edward fashion. He's like, "I'm jealous of how easy it would be for him to kill himself. Like I had to think about that once, and I knew from Carlisle's experience it would be easy."
Oh my god! I'm like, and he just casually drops this into conversation. Like, it's like there's no preamble to this.
No. And Bella's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Yeah, like last year when you were gonna die, like I was trying to save you, but half of my brain was also thinking like, how do I kill myself?" He's like, "I was gonna go to the Volturi." And Bella's like, "What is a Volturi?" Like,
no, she already knows what they are.
She does, but I don't think
Carlisle told her.
I know she knows, but she doesn't recognize it in the moment. Like,
oh,
she definitely says, "What is a Volturi?" And we know who the Volturi are. They're like the Italian royalty vampires, who are like super powerful. Yeah, so we basically get that like Edward would kill himself if Bella ever died, and Bella's like, "Don't fucking do that." And he was like, "What if the situations were reversed?" And Bella's like, "It's not the same thing. Like he didn't seem to understand the difference." I'm like, "What is the difference, Bella?" Like I don't
listen. They get into like basically a debate over which one of them would be faster to commit suicide if the other one died. Like they literally sit there and they're like, "No, I would die faster. No, I would like." And I'm just like, "You guys are so weird. You're so weird." But yeah, the way that you get the Volturi to kill you is you go to their like city and you like provoke them. Or you can just ask them nicely to kill you, but sometimes they say no. So then
I don't know if anyone's ever, because Alice is at the end is like, I don't know if they've ever had a suicidal vampire. They don't get a lot of suicidal vampires, but I guarantee it's one of those things like with Renesmee where they're like, no, this has never happened before in the history of vampires in the history of the world. Like we're the first ones, but I guarantee it's like every other week they have like fucking. Like,
yeah, I just feel like vampires are immortal. I just feel like after 500 years, I'd be like, I'm outie. Like this sucks. Like because as like normal vampires, like you don't really get to have friends, you don't get to have family. Like you got to be constantly like live. Like it just seems like it would suck. Even the Cullens' existence seems like it would suck.
After like the Volturi have been around for 3,000 years. Like after that, like I feel like been there, done that for like almost everything. Like you're not the first. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Charlie comes home and brings up pizza for Bella's birthday, and he's like, "Hey kids, I thought you'd like a break from cooking and washing dishes for your birthday." It's like Charlie doesn't even do the fucking dishes. Like I don't know. Bella does everything. Charlie is not, I don't know. He's like a good dad, but also a terrible dad.
Yeah, he's really like low standards.
Yeah,
low standards for Charlie.
Edward's like, oh, is it okay if Bella comes over tonight? And Charlie's like, that's okay. Like the Mariners are playing the Sox anyway, so I won't be any kind of company. So even Bella was going to be there. Like he wasn't even going to.
He was still going to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bella gets a camera and a scrapbook from Renee and Charlie. They coordinated presents. And Edward is once again like whining about how he can't get Bella a birthday present. And Bella's like, he's like, what would you like for your birthday? Like, please, like, what would you like? And she's like, you know what I want. To turn her into a vampire. And Edward is like, no, God.
Which is like
Bella. Which good thing she didn't make him promise, because like they're both like really weird about giving all their arbitrary promises.
Well, I think it's so funny how like Bella, she always has something that she's like, I wouldn't say nagging, but like reasonably, she always has some like reasonable request that Edward is treating as if it's like insane and like ridiculous. Like first it's wanting to be a vampire. Then once she secures that bag, she moves on to like having sex. And he's like, no, God forbid. Like never.
Outside of the marriage bed?
Yeah.
No. How could you, Bella? How could you take my virtue? I mean, yeah, they're not even French kissing at this point. Like at the beginning, they kiss, and Bella's still like having to remember to breathe, and it's still just like closed mouth, like pressed against each other for like, you know, however long until Bella passes out, and then like you're done for the day.
So they go over to the Cullens' house. Everyone's there. Even Rosalie and Emmett, who had like left for a while, and Bella's like feeling guilty about like quote unquote driving them out of their home because like I guess she thinks the reason they left is because Rosalie like hates her, which she does.
Maybe they just wanted to fuck in peace, Bella.
Right.
Just because you and Edward are chaste.
So Bella's like, I feel guilty about Rosalie not being there, but I also furtively enjoyed not having to see her. Just like, oh my God, the amount of Rosalie slander. Honestly, I would probably feel the same way, but
Stephenie Meyer hates Rosalie. And frankly, so do the movie people. So like the movie, I think I talked about this last time when they like created like the Cullen crest, and they make like each of the Cullens wear a different like a ring or like a bracelet or like something else super ugly like that has the Cullen crest on it. And Rosalie's is the ugliest of all. It is this giant like medallion necklace that like takes up half her fucking chest. And then in this movie, poor Nikki Reed has like, you thought movie one's wig was bad. No, poor Nikki Reed has been forced into another more horrible blonde wig. Yep. Like Rosalie just gets such a shit end of the deal.
Yeah, all around. Like it's just
nobody likes
that.
Rosalie.
We'll get into that. Don't worry, we read the excerpts, Stephenie Meyer's like extras for this book, and also deleted scenes, but
there's quite a lot of bonus content.
So they get to the birthday party, all's well, they have some cake, and then she goes to open her present, and it's an envelope, and she gets a paper cut, which would be fine.
You know what I wrote in my notes for this? I wrote I wrote in all caps, paper cut. And then I wrote Jasper, yummy, yummy.
But it's more just like yummy, yummy.
Yeah. So Jasper, and the actor who plays Jasper just really mastered like the feral look. Like he just is so like truly like an animal in the movie. Like perfect acting, flawless, no notes.
She looks up into the eyes of 8 suddenly voracious.
No, I wrote it down. I wrote the quote down. Don't try to quote it if you're not going to write the quote down. She said, as I stared up into the eyes of 6 suddenly ravenous vampires. End of chapter. And I'm like, wow, dun, Stephenie, dun. Really like out the gate. Like what a great way to end this chapter. Well done. You really nailed it there.
Yeah. So, So continuation.
There's a fight. They got to stop Jasper
Edward
from eating
yeets her into a glass wall. And so she starts bleeding even more.
There's like a tower of like wine glasses or something. Like that's what she gets eaten into.
They got like 17 wine glasses just for Bella.
Why do these vampires have a tower of like champagne glasses? Like I don't understand. Like do they have like wine nights that are just like different? Oh, like here's like a cougar's blood. It has an undertone of honey and raspberry.
That would
make
too much sense.
Oh my god. Like, do you think there are vampire like wineries, like tastings? Like here's a vegetarian like person. Like they have a different flavor to their blood than a carnivore
someone on the
person.
paleo diet.
Yeah. Here's someone who has recently completed Whole30. There's a slight tang to their blood that you wouldn't get in Here's the guy who just did the Big Mac challenge.
I feel like that would somehow be like the most prized. Like,
yeah. Somebody create this business opportunity. Vampires exist.
Yep.
You can take it for free. This is a business.
So Carlisle has to like stitch Bella up, and they have this like long conversation about like how Carlisle found Edward, and like allegedly Edward's mom, even though she was like literally delusional with fever, like still told Carlisle to like change Edward or whatever. Yeah. So he got consent. Not really.
Where's the proof? Like allegedly you got parental consent, but like who can verify this? Did you get it in writing?
Yeah. And then we get this whole thing about Carlisle. I forget how this starts, but like Carlisle's like, do vampires have souls? Like, do we go to heaven? And so Carlisle, I guess, is the only one who thinks there's even like a possibility of vampire heaven, but he thinks that the probability is like very, very low, and all the rest of the family like thinks there is no vampire heaven, because he's just like, it's a long shot. I'm hoping, like maybe foolishly, like we'll get credit for trying, but like he does
think they don't have souls,
right? He says they're probably damsels. Like Edward doesn't come up with this out of nowhere. Like it definitely is. I mean, even I feel like Carlisle, like. Yeah, he says there might be a chance, but like even he's like, like where would they have even gotten the idea of like we're damned?
Okay. So Edward's whole thing is that he thinks vampires don't have souls, and so they're automatically going to hell, and that's the reason that he's so against turning Bella into a vampire, because he's like, I don't want to send Bella to like hell or like whatever like vampires go to, and yeah, Carlisle's acting like Edward Eddie Boy like came up with this by himself, and I'm like, no, sir. You fully indoctrinated this child. Who I would also like to say, based on the parental consent thing, like Carlisle only changed Edward because he was hot. I just want to say that this is made very clear in the book. He gets the quote unquote parental consent, and he looks at Edward and he's like, oh, but he had such a pleasant face for a 17-year-old. Oh, he was so pretty, even though he was like delusional with fever. Oh, it would be a shame to waste such a hot little boy. Yeah. And like, that's literally, I was like, pretty privileged.
Can I just say, yeah, this is just going to be like, reinforced throughout this book, but this is such like cult leader thinking on Edward's part. Like he's literally like, you need to go to heaven. It would be better for you to die and go to heaven than become a vampire with me, which is like literally the exact kind of thinking that gets like parents to put like cyanide laced Kool-Aid in their children's sippy cups. Like I'm really surprised that Edward doesn't like kill her at the end of this book when she like gets promised to turn.
And it's like, here's the thing, because that's the thing, is Edward never really stops believing that like vampires don't have souls. Like that's not never really something that we see him like reverse his opinion on. So like, why the fuck does he ever change his mind?
No.
Like, is it just because Bella like finally gets another vampire to agree to turn her if like Edward doesn't have the balls to do it?
Right.
Why does he ever change his mind?
Why doesn't he just let her die in Breaking Dawn? Like that would be the logical conclusion of his like religious extremist, like radical thinking.
He's insane.
And I don't know if this is a good place to mention this, but vampirism is very much like Mormonism in that apparently I learned this from TikTok. I'm sorry if you're Mormon, this is incorrect. I learned this from like an ex-Mormon person on TikTok. But apparently like part of the Mormon belief system is that you only have to follow like all these strict rules if you're Mormon, like once you become Mormon. For people who aren't Mormon, they get another chance after they die to like go to heaven. They might not get to like the highest level of heaven, but they can still like make amends once they die. So basically like if you actually truly believe in Mormonism, recruiting people to be Mormons is like, it's such a like,
it's kind of fucked up.
It's shit thing to do because you're basically just like forcing them into this life of like following all these rules. So it's kind of like vampirism in that, like, they're forcing them into, like, having to follow and think that they're shit and think that they're, like, terrible people and, like, all these rules and they're damned versus, like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing, like, Carlisle is Joseph Smith or whatever the fuck, the founder of Mormonism guy. Like,
Yeah.
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Mormonism is strong in this series.
God, yeah. Bella's like, but it's my choice. And Carlisle's like, it's his choice too. Like, whether he's responsible for doing that to you. But I'm like, it literally is Bella's choice. But also, like, none of the Cullens have any, like, loyalty to Bella apart from Edward. Like, she will never have their true loyalty. You know what I mean? Like, it's
No.
always, like, I don't know.
Well, she'll have more of Alice's loyalty than Rosalie would.
Yeah,
honestly. When she's
sure, then Rosalie would, but not than Edward would.
No. Yeah. No, I mean, but, you know, he's like the actual member of their family. Where
I know, but I'm just saying, like, Bella is always like, oh, I just want to join this family. Like, this is the most important thing. But I feel like Bella will never get to the same level as, like, I don't know.
Edward's
maybe she
the original. He's the original, like, recruit to the cult of
So
Cullen.
shouldn't Rosalie have more than Emmett?
No, because Rosalie's a bitch. She hasn't figured out how.
She's not.
No, but, like, in universe, everyone thinks she is. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Edward's a bitch too in universe.
I know. He's such a little bitch. I literally, the number of times when I make a note about something that Edward did, and I started out with, this bitch does blah, 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 blah. Like, I literally call him this bitch almost every time. Like, so I use the phrase this bitch far more than I use the name Edward.
I use, like, Eddie, but, like, spelled a different way every time, like E-D-I.
Yeah, Eddie Boy is also a common.
Y-E. Yeah.
It's just however my phone autocorrects it. Yeah. So while I just also want to point out, while Carlisle is, like, stitching her up, like, she's specifically like, oh, I have to breathe through my mouth and just, like, not look at, like, the stitches so I don't, like, pass out / vomit. And I'm sitting here like, okay, first of all, the whole, like, breathing through your mouth thing so you can't smell things, like, I don't know who fucking started that propaganda, but, like, maybe it decreases it. No,
it's 100% true.
Well, it's not true for me, and I don't think it would be true for Bella either, because if she, like, has a sensitive enough nose that she can smell blood, like, I can get, like, because your nose and your mouth, like, if you plug your nose, you can't taste things, right? Because it's so interconnected.
That's not true for me.
Okay, anyway, my point being, like, breathing through your mouth, like, dims it a little bit, but it definitely does not get rid of it. And I'm like, okay, so first of all, I'm calling bullshit that she can't smell her own blood. Second of all, she literally passed out in the first book from a fucking paper cut on the other side of the room. And she now has a gaping wound in her arm, and all she's got to do is, like, look the other way, like she's getting a fucking shot, and, like, and she's not gonna faint. Be consistent here, Stephenie. Is Bella fainting at the sight of blood or at the smell of blood or not?
But I did write down, because remember before we were saying, like, it never comes back, but, like, it does at least come back a little bit, like, not really, but, like,
yeah, but not to the extent mentioned. Like, it's this big thing in Twilight, and then even at the end of Twilight, like, it's not, like, when she's, like, on the ground, she's like, oh, I smelled blood, but, like, I stayed awake.
Yeah.
You know?
God,
like,
yeah. So, but she's also being treated to Carlisle's, like, riveting reenactment of, like, Edward's mom, which, can I just say, the way it's written, it literally is so weird. It's like he's dramatically acting it out. Like, like, the quotes are like, save him, she said in the hoarse voice that was all her throat could manage. The fever was so high, she probably couldn't even tell. Like, can you imagine telling someone a story in that, like, way? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like.
Yeah, but no, my thing was, like, he's telling this, like, objectively exciting story, but, like, I would be, like, bored out of my mind if someone were, like, monologuing. I don't know. He just, like, somehow makes this objectively exciting story just sounds super boring. So yeah, Eddie Boy is now sulking. He's sulking because he's like, oh my god, I almost killed Bella and it was all my fault. What the fuck? And they get in a fight in the car ride home, and they're basically like, Edward is basically like, this would never happen if you were dating someone like Mike Newton. And Bella is like, I would rather die than be with Mike Newton. And I'm like, damn, girl, he's not that bad.
I'd rather die than be with anyone but you. Like, and Edward's like, don't be melodramatic, Bella. It's just like, that's a bit rich coming from you, Eddie, melodramatic Cullen.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. One of the things that we learned, I think this is a good place. One of the things that we learned from the Eddie Boy bonus content, not from, like, the Eddie Boy's perspective, but, like, from some bonus content that Stephenie Meyer, like, writes about him and about New Moon, is that Edward, spoiler for the next chapter, Edward's about to dip because he's being angsty. But the reason that he does is because he does not believe, like, fundamentally that, like, Bella is capable of loving him in the same way that, like, he loves her. Like, he thinks, like, because she's human, like, there's just, like, no way that, like, she can, like, reach his, like, depth. And so he thinks that it'll be, like, so easy for her to, like, get over him and, like, move on with her life.
Where did we learn that?
In the Stephenie Meyer, like, on Stephenie Meyer's website. She has, like, she writes, like, an essay about it or something. It's not in, like, the bonus PDFs. It's, like, in the, like, on her website. So he genuinely just does not, because his whole thing is, like, he spent 100 years, you know, watching humans and, like, seeing them break up and stuff. But, like, his vampire family has soulmates. So he's like, humans are just not capable of this kind of love. Which is just such, like, fuck you, Edward.
Like, if you don't think that your partner, yeah, I just don't understand.
Fuck you.
No, he's such a piece of shit. And, like, oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say is, like, Alice, like, I just, like, don't have any desire. Like, Alice does not deserve to be, like, exculpated from any of this blame because she's, like, allegedly Bella's best friend, but it's imminently obvious that Alice is Edward's best friend. Like, she has no loyalty to Bella.
Oh yeah.
But when Bella is leaving the Cullens house, she asks Alice, like, how bad is it? And Alice is like, I'm not sure yet. But, like, Edward comes back in and his face is already set. Like, he's definitely already made up his mind. Like, Alice,
Right.
even at that point, like, already knows. Also, like, both Alice and Edward have seen through Alice's visions, like, exactly how bad it's going to be for Bella. Yet they both have the audacity to, like, act shocked. Like, Alice at the end, she's like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't think it'd be like this. Like, bitch, you thought
Like,
it's going to be exactly like this.
Arrogance. Like, they're so fucking, like,
Well, I just don't understand.
like,
It's based on nothing. It's like you literally saw the exact
no.
opposite. I
It's
don't know.
so dumb.
Okay, so Edward spends the next, like, 2 days being a moody little bitch and wallowing. Alice is gone the next day at school, and Bella's like, where's
Where'd
Alice?
Alice go?
And Edward's like, oh,
she's
she went
coming
away with
back.
Jasper. Like, yeah, like Jasper feels bad, so they left. And Bella, an empath, is sensing that change is around the corner.
Yeah, also because Edward kisses her, like, really ferociously, not with tongue, but, like, extra hard pressing of the lips together. And she's like, this is just like when he kissed me in the last book when, like, we had to briefly separate when we were running away from James. And
well, they didn't know if they were going to see each other again, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, Edward kisses her like that as if he hasn't been planning to leave her since the last book, as if there was a moment of their whole soft summer when he wasn't like, yes, I will be breaking up with Bella one day in the near future.
It's like one of those things I'm like, why did you make it like that, Stephenie? Like, that just makes it's already bad, and that just makes it so much unnecessarily, like, 10 times worse. Like, why? For what?
So Bella gets the pictures that she got the camera for her birthday, and she gets the pictures developed from, like, her birthday party and everything. And I just, like, man, I miss the days when you could just, like, roll up to Kmart and, like, get your film developed in, like, 3 hours. Like, we didn't know how fucking good we had it. Like, I understand that we have, like, smartphones now and, like, all of that, but, like, if I want to get my fucking film developed from just, like, a fucking disposable camera, like, I gotta wait like 14 to 20 business days. You know, like, it's so annoying. Like, you could just roll into CVS and, like, within a few hours, like, it's done. And that's what Bella does. I was like, oh, that was a good life. But then she's like, oh, I'm gonna mail these pictures to my mom because she got copies. She's like, wait, Edward, I'll meet you. Edward's like, let's go for a walk. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll meet you at the driveway. I need to mail these pictures. And he's like, I'll do it. And we learn later that he steals all of the shit that, like, he gave her and, like, all the pictures. He takes the pictures out of the scrapbook. So, you know, this bitch, Edward, stole the picture she was going to send to her mom. And, like, I don't give a shit about Renee, but, like, what the fuck, Edward?
I know.
She's trying to send a nice present to her mom.
Maybe he just took out the ones with him in them and sent the rest, you know, because she does have a bunch of, like, her friends at school.
No, I just feel like
I know. It's so fucked. So, okay, they get home. He's like, come for a walk. But the walk is like 5 seconds into the woods. But still, like, why a walk at all? Like, why go into the woods? Because Bella's about to get lost in the woods to the point where she collapses and has to be rescued by the werewolves. And, like, did Alice not see this? Like, did you not know what would happen? Like, and the fact that becomes her recurring nightmare, I feel like makes it 10 times worse. You know, like, that's her nightmare, is wandering in the woods. But I guess it could have just been something else.
She already had been having that dream, though, of wandering in the woods.
Different.
That's, like, Bella's go-to dream, even
but not,
before,
like, just
from Twilight.
Aimlessly wandering. Like, I don't know. I guess she could have just had, like, a different one. But anyway, he takes her out 5 minutes in the woods, and he's like, we're leaving. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, fine, let's go. Like, I'm totally ready. Let's ditch Charlie. Like, fuck him. And
Well, no,
he's
she
like
feels a little bit. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know it was gonna come this soon," but, like
yeah.
and she's been suspecting this the whole time. She's been
Mhm.
suspecting that the Cullens are gonna leave, but not she's like well, she's like, "Obviously, I'm gonna come with them." So she's been, like, mentally preparing herself to, like,
Mhm.
have to leave the whole time. But then she's like, "I'm coming," in the movie, and Edward is like, "I don't want you to come." And I'm like, "You got that right, Eddie boy, like, definitely." I bet you don't even go down on her when she's a fucking vampire,
God, he's
like
already lining up his next thing to, like, withhold from Bella for no
yeah.
reason.
Foreshadowing.
So, yeah, he's like, "We're leaving." And Bella's like, "What do you mean? Like, why can't I come with you? Like, I wanna be with you." He's like, "I'm not good for you." And then he's like, "No, it's just because I don't want you. I'm bored with you. Like, I'm following my distractions or whatever." And she's just immediately like, "Oh, well, that makes sense because, like, obviously you wouldn't like, care about me." And, like,
Yeah.
obviously
Well, he's like, "Human memories are like sieves. So, like, you'll forget about me quickly." And at that moment, I was just like, I really want Bella to just, like, roll her eyes and be like, "Fuck off, Edward."
I
Like, "Go
know.
fuck yourself." Like, what a dick thing to say. But it's worse because you know that that's what he genuinely believes. Like, he genuinely believes that she's just not, like, doesn't have the brain capacity to, like,
Right.
love him in the same way. He also has the gall he's breaking up with her, and he has the gall to ask her for a favor
Oh
while he's
my
breaking up with
fucking
her.
god. Oh, it's
Oh my god,
back to the stupid promises.
he's like, "Do me a favor, take care of yourself, but, not for me, definitely not for me, for Charlie, like, not for me, I don't give a shit whether you live or die, but, like, definitely, for your dad. Do
And
me a
then
favor while
and then
I'm
his
dumping
and
you."
then his promise in return isn't something that Bella gets to ask. It's just like, "I promise that this is the last you'll ever see of me." Like,
It'll be as if I never existed.
that's not a fucking reciprocal promise. She didn't ask for that. Like, it's the convoluted promises. It's the convoluted promises that make no sense, that for some reason Bella always feels
Oh my
compelled to
god.
keep.
Stephenie
Like,
has been building up to this the whole time. For a book and a half, she's been building up to this
I
convoluted
just remember being
promise.
so confused reading this because Bella's like, "Well, if he's not gonna keep his promise, then I don't have to keep mine." And I was like, "Wait a second, you didn't even, like, get him to promise anything. He just, like, threw that like, you're being played in every possible meaning of the word, girl." Like
He is playing you like a goddamn fiddle. And then he leaves. He, like, runs away. He's like, "Goodbye." Kisses, he gives a little forehead kiss,
Mhm.
little last chaste kiss, and then he runs away. And then he doesn't for some reason, he's like, "Yeah, there's no way that she'll try to follow me." Like
Despite the
and I'm
fact that
like,
Alice
we got
definitely
another
saw
"this
this.
bitch" reference where I'm like, does this bitch want her to get lost in the
He
woods?
doesn't
Like
understand her at all. That's what it is. He just doesn't
Yeah.
understand her at all because he doesn't understand people. He just has his, like, brain power, like, mind reading power. And
Yes,
so,
yes.
like, he just thinks he knows everything. And we get from Rosalie's perspective later on that Edward, like, has to know everything at all times and gets so mad when he doesn't.
Like, he
But,
throws a
like,
temper tantrum, like, it's
yeah.
literally described as a temper tantrum.
Yeah, but he
I'm
actually,
like,
like, doesn't know
checks
shit.
out.
Yeah.
Checks out. Oh, and now we get the title super early in this book. You have to wait a little bit to get Twilight mentioned in Twilight, but immediately tonight, the night that Edward dumps her, it's a new moon, baby. It's a
Mhm.
new moon. The imagery is coming in early. There we
Which,
go.
if you're unaware, not to, like, talk down to anyone, but personally, I have to
I
think
mean,
about this every single
you guys
time.
really had to explain to me
A
what a new
new
moon
moon.
was.
So full moon is like the big full moon. A new moon means that there's no moon. So it's a tricky
Yeah.
naming convention there.
Yeah, anyway. So Bella runs after him naturally, trips in the woods. And at this point, you're like, is this what the prologue was foreshadowing for?
I've never had that thought, but I see it. Okay.
But yeah, she falls and then she's like, oh my God, I can't get up. I'm just going to lay on the ground.
Help.
And I
Help.
related a lot to that. I
Yep.
related a lot to just falling and being like, it's not worth it.
Yep.
It's not
Starts
worth
to
getting up.
rain. She's just laying there. And then suddenly she hears voices, but like she doesn't respond. And like hours later, she hears some snuffling. And then suddenly there's a very large shirtless man scooping her up and carrying her home.
Yeah. And she's like, in her mind, she's like, I feel like I should be upset that this random stranger is like carrying me through the woods, but I cannot find the energy to be upset about this.
And what I want to know, so this is Sam Yuli, who's the pack of the werewolf tribe that we'll later meet. How does he have pants?
They tie it.
That's
around
true.
their
I guess he's like
legs.
in control enough to do that. Yeah. Okay, so he carries her home. Charlie's there, like the whole search party. Like Bella is like at this
Catatonic.
point like shut down. Like she has not even like processed like what's happening. And so like the doctor checks her out, like everything's okay. She like goes to sleep on the couch. And then she gets woken up because Charlie gets a phone call. And the phone call is like, there are some fires out on the cliffs in the Quileute reservation. So Charlie like calls Billy, and Billy's like, oh yeah, they're just celebrating the news. The news that the vampires have left town. So we find out that the story is that Carlisle just got a new job in LA from like a really big hospital and had to make like a snap decision. And that's why they left.
Charlie obviously is pissed that like they're celebrating the Cullens being gone. But I'm like, are they celebrating the vampires being gone, or are they celebrating that they can now have access to medical care? Like they're like, oh my God, we can go to the
fucking
hospital
God.
now.
Because we've been saying this and people were fighting with us on TikTok about this, but it's 100% true. And we get confirmation in Jacob Black's POV on the extras, because we find out that we have like a confirmed example of someone with a very serious injury that has to get treated by a single nurse who happens to live on the reservation because they can't go to the hospital because there's vampires there. Like,
Yeah.
Emily. Yeah. Anyway.
So
So Charlie talking about them celebrating the news like gets Bella to like sort of process that Edward is gone, and that's when she goes like completely catatonic.
And we get the most brilliant, I'm not being sarcastic here. We now get the most brilliant literary example of depression that I've ever read in my 25 and a half years. It's just, guys, and like only Stephenie Meyer would be able to get away with this because it's just so insane. Like no other author could ever do this. Where it ends, Bella's like catatonic on the couch, and then it's just several pages, and the only words are October, November, December, January, and then the next chapter is called Waking Up. And
On
that's
like
it.
blank pages. Yep.
On blank pages.
It's incredible.
It's so incredible. And quite frankly, as someone with depression, sometimes what depression really does feel like.
It's great in movie form too. It's just Bella sitting in front of the window, and then the camera like slowly pans around and shows like the changing seasons. The only thing that it's not great in is audiobook form, unfortunately. I can now confirm.
Yeah, because you don't get the full, especially when you
The fact
listen
that
to
the
it fast.
pages.
You
Yeah,
don't.
the blank pages.
But yeah, the movie, and like the New Moon soundtrack. We talked about how the Twilight soundtracks have like some of the best movie soundtracks of all time, but the New Moon soundtrack is like I argue the best movie soundtrack of all time. Like it's truly flawless. And the song, what?
Or of any movie or of the Twilight movies?
I'm saying any movie.
I would say it's up there with movies with words, but 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
I don't know, because we have this song, the song that plays when we spinning around Kristen Stewart and it's like showing the seasons changing, and it's Possibility by, I don't know who it's fucking by, but okay, and it's just like perfect song choice, just like flawless, and it's just it's like so bold, so brash, like the balls on Stephenie Meyer, like to do this, and for the movie for being like, yeah, we're gonna fucking roll with that, like excellent. Yeah, so now Bella has woken up, and she wakes up with Charlie being like, you're going to Florida, you're being a zombie. And Bella's like, oh, I thought I'd been doing really well. I went to work and I had really good grades. I only very rarely served leftovers. And I'm like, oh my God. Even catatonic, she has to cook for him.
Well, what I don't understand is like at the end of this book, Charlie's gonna like threaten, Bella's gonna be like, you can ground me. I'll do all the chores for a month if you want me to. Like, how is that any different? Bella cleans, she cooks, he doesn't even do the fucking dishes. Like she already does everything. She's scrubbing the tub at one point in this book. Like up to her elbows in Comet, which I don't think is even physically possible.
No, she's like, oh, the rooms have been like, the bathroom has so much neglect because I haven't been cleaning it while I've been hanging out with Jacob. And I'm like, Charlie didn't clean the bathroom once.
I know.
There's like a grown man in this house.
Insane.
But Charlie does. He's like, you need to do something. And I do like that he suggests that she like goes to therapy. and then also tries to like empathize with her with his own experience, because he's like, when your mom left me and like took you, like that was like one of the most horrible times in my life, but like, you know, I had to get through it, so like you can get through it too. And I was like, wow, great for Charlie. And then Bella is like, I don't want to go to no shrink.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
she's
oh,
like,
okay, we're back in 2006.
she's like,
Great.
I don't know much about psychoanalysis, but I think it only works if you're honest. And I'm like, you know what, Stephenie, I believe you that you don't know much about it, because you're using
Yeah.
words like shrink and psychoanalysis to like
Yeah.
describe run-of-the-mill therapy. Like,
So Bella's like, oh, fine, like I'll go hang out with some of my bitch ass friends, like whatever. But she's like, I'm really good at like calculus and math now. I've been really good at school because like I'm trying to like keep myself busy, and it's better to focus on math than to focus on all the exhausting romances that made up much of the English curriculum. And I'm like, where? What
yeah,
high school did you go to, Bella? Because like the only fucking romance I read in all of high school was Jane Eyre, and that one
yeah,
sucks. I
I
fucking
know.
hate Jane Eyre.
Yeah, we're talking about that.
So
Like, I didn't even have to read Pride and Prejudice for like school.
no.
There's not a single, but again, Stephenie Meyer considers Romeo and Juliet a romance. So
But
you
even
gotta,
that, you're including Romeo and Juliet. What other book? What I didn't read anything else that was a romance.
no,
What are
no.
you including? The Great Gatsby? Like,
Yeah, like I don't understand. And we already know that they already read Wuthering Heights last year. Like, even if she's somehow counting that.
I don't understand. Like, where and how do I go there? Like, I want to go to that high school that reads.
She asks Jessica, she's like, "Want to have a girls' night?" And Jessica's like shocked, obviously, because I guess Jessica, like, I mean, all her friends kind of gave up on her once she stopped. Like,
Well, she's like, Jessica has been sulking because of my antisocial behavior. And I'm like, it's not sulking when you
I
cut off
know.
your friends with no warning. Like, I
Yeah,
understand that you're depressed, Bella, and I do have empathy for
right,
you. But like, when you literally just stop talking to people and like, they have a right to be upset.
right, right, exactly. Like, it's, yeah.
It's not sulking.
I know, and
They're
she
not
like
being
roasts Jessica
childish.
so much. Like, she's about to treat Jessica like shit on this like movie date, and then have the balls to like 2 days later be like, "Oh, I don't understand why Jessica is still so mad. Like, what does she expect? A formal written apology?" I'm like, maybe not a formal written apology, but just an apology, period. Might have been
Just
nice.
any apology. Any
Right.
apology. I would be able to empathize with Bella not having the energy to like hang out with people and like maintain friendships a lot more if she like hadn't been such a bitch to her human friends, like
Right.
even when Edward was there.
Mhm.
I was like, you treated them like shit before. Like, frankly, I'm surprised that like they were friends with you even like before you like cut them out. Like, I
Right.
so they go to a zombie movie, and because Bella's like, I can't watch a romantic comedy. That's horrible.
This book has a lot of movie watching in it, and Bella's ability to like sit through movies without picking up even a teensy bit of the plot, top notch.
Flawless.
The
She
only
never
one
knows.
she like tunes into is Romeo and Juliet. I guess, you know, pre-post depression could be more of it, but like she's just like, I'm just watching the moving figures on the screen. I'm at the talkies. Like,
So they come out of the theater and they're like walking out and they're gonna go get a bite to eat. And in the movie, like Jessica is just like going on this like this fully improvised. I want to say Anna Kendrick fully improvises this like monologue about like the movie, and then she's like, my cousin has leprosy. Like, it's not funny. And then she's like talking about Bella. She's like, I know that you've been depressed, but like, but I'm going through stuff too. And like, she just totally, and she's like, what are the zombies supposed to be like? A critique of like capitalism and like like, and it's just like all this. I was like, this is incredible.
but like the leprosy comment made me think that like maybe the real reason Bella doesn't like Jessica actually and it's always judging her is because Jessica doesn't laugh at her like physical,
Her
you know,
albino jokes.
medical condition based humor, like the albino jokes and like the leprosy. Like, I don't know.
My cousin had leprosy. It's not funny.
So they're walking down the street and they pass a bar called One Eye Pete's, both in the book and in the movie,
Yeah.
because of some possible vague pirate theme inside. And Bella sees some guys. They remind her of the murder rapist she met in Port Angeles last year, who Edward like rescued her from.
And she hears Edward's voice.
Yeah, Edward's voice is like she starts. This is her first hallucination. Edward is like, "Stop it!" She starts walking towards them. He's like, "Stop it! Like, don't," or whatever. And then she keeps going towards them.
And then eventually like turns around. In the movie, she goes on like a whole like motorcycle ride, but like in the book, she's like, yeah, it's not my former rapist, like my former attempted rapist. So like I'm gonna go back to Jessica.
Yeah, she's like, they're probably nice guys.
And Jessica understandably is like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Right, because
and
Bella only
no
notices them because
explanation.
Jessica is like acting scared of them and like trying to like go a little bit farther away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no
Bella's like, woohoo. And then Bella's like ruminating about, she spends the whole car ride back like ruminating about, like, she's like, why did I do that? Like, why did I hear Edward's voice? Like, all of this. And she says she's like, I'm not like suicidal. Like, I would never want to like die by suicide. But the reason she says it, she's like, who would be there to like take care of Charlie? And it would like hurt Renee so much. So I'm like, Bella, the only reason Bella is not suicidal is because of parentification. Like, are we getting an unexpected, I guess, benefit to parentification? Like, the Bella is alive because she's been forced to assume like the emotional support for her parents.
I know. And yeah, and so Jessica's so mad, and Bella's just like, I shrugged, wishing she would just let it go. Like, Jessica stared out the window. She seemed to be getting angrier rather than getting over it. I'd forgotten her by the time I was inside the house.
Yeah, she's like, I wouldn't have thought Jessica could go that long without speaking. Bitch! What did Jessica ever do to you?
I know. She's so judgmental.
So mean to her.
And so Bella goes inside to have a horrible night of nightmares and a giant ragged hole in her chest because of the hallucinations.
Do you think that the crime rates have increased in Forks? I mean, so we know at this point that there's been some like murders in the woods going on, but we don't know what's been causing them. But like outside of the murders in the woods, do you think the crime rate in Forks has like increased over the past like 6 months because Charlie is so sleep deprived from Bella keeping him awake every night with her screaming that like he just like rolls into work on like 5 minutes of sleep and he's like, hey God. Like there's only 3 cops. We get the specific number. There's only 3 cops in Forks, including Charlie.
I thought you were gonna say because the Cullens weren't there for like Edward to do his vigilantism, but you know they don't bother saving anyone. But like
no.
Yeah.
Like God. Do you think the crime rate in Forks is just skyrocketed?
Maybe. If there even was a crime rate.
Yeah, that's true. There's like 200 people in this town. Like, how much crime do you think is going on?
Oh, so this is where the timeline starts. So we know that this is Friday night. She goes to the movies. Saturday, she has work. So she goes to work with Mike and she overhears a conversation about like some hikers talking about the bears in the woods and like blah, blah, blah.
And that's Saturday, January 17th is when she overhears the first mention of the bears.
And one of the hikers is like, black bears don't get that big. And I'm here to tell you that black bears can actually be any color. And grizzlies also do not have to be brown. So remember that. They can be any color ranging from blonde to brown to black.
So the helpful poem that we taught you guys, not that helpful.
I mean, for most of the time, like Mike is like, Bella, you can go home early. And Bella's like, I don't have anything to do but be a menace on the roads of Forks. And she's like driving around and then stops to have a good cry. And she's like thinking, this is when she has the thought about like why am I, it makes me feel silly for keeping my promise to like not endanger myself when Edward isn't even keeping his promise that it would be like he never existed. But like you never wanted him to keep that anyway.
It's convoluted. They're so the way that they think. Like this is just
makes no sense.
Listen, say what you want about Stephenie Meyer, but she knows her characters and they stay true to like their fucking convoluted ways of like their way that they think is bonkers, but they
always think
commit.
Like that. Yeah.
They commit.
So she looks up and she happens to be right across the street from the Marx's house. How the fuck she knows that? I don't know. She just, whatever. But out by the garbage are 2 motorcycles. And she's like, I always promised Charlie I would never ride a motorcycle. But like, why not? I'll just start breaking all the promises today. So she like
oh my God.
rolls up, gets the motorcycles. They don't work, but she puts them in her truck and she's like, be really expensive to get these fixed. But like, who do I know that I can take advantage of who will fix them for me? Jacob Black. So she rolls up to his house on the Quileute Reservation.
She's like, hey, Jacob. And Jacob is like, oh my God, I've been jacking off to you every single night since we met on the beach.
And that's not just us saying that. We have Jacob's perspective of this entire
like confirmation
time on
Jacob
Meyer's
has
website.
been jacking off every single night.
Because like you pointed out, like it's not just Bella and Edward. Like every character in this book just goes like immediately 0 to 100 for whoever they're into. Like it's always just like first sight, immediate commitment. Like and Jacob's no different. So Jacob like runs out. He's like really excited to see her.
And in the movie, he's like, Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca?
God.
Did they have to like drug Taylor Lautner to get him to say that with a straight face?
Oh my God.
They have to like point a gun at him off camera. Like, don't laugh.
So Bella's like, hey, do you want to like help me fix these up and then you can have one of them, like, and I'll pay for everything. And he's like, okay, sounds great. Like, and she's like, don't tell our parents. And he's like, no problem. And she's like, oh, this is great. Like, the teenage boys are like so easy to manipulate, like amazing. And so then they're like working on the bikes together, and it's like Jacob was prattling on about his school and his friends, his classes, the progress of his sophomore year of high school, and he sounds like totally normal kid. And I'm just like, poor Jacob, like his whole life is about to be ruined. He's about to be drafted forcibly into the werewolf military. Like it's worse than the military because you're enslaved. Like you have to obey the alpha. Like this poor, he's such a normal, nice little boy. Like, I don't know.
Bring back New Moon Jacob, because as soon as Jacob becomes a werewolf, he's just an asshole for the rest of his life. He never gets over this. He's just absolute worst.
I'm gonna be honest. I think the main reason I've always been like strictly team Edward, like at the heart of it, you know, I come up with a lot of like window dressing. At the heart of it, it's because I'm like, I want, you know, Bella needs to be like an immortal, cool fucking vampire. Like that's like the main thing, right? It's like Jacob, you wouldn't get that. But like everything else, it's like, just like the vibes. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like you see it going from like the beginning of this book to here, and also at the end when she goes back to Edward. It's like I feel like Edward, all the interactions with Jacob are in this like sunny sepia tone, like happy, like yellow tone. You know what I mean? Like bright tones. And Edward, it's like the blue filter they put on Twilight. That was perfectly appropriate because that's how it feels to be around Edward. Like it's just like a tense downer.
Sure, that's the case for New Moon Jacob.
Yeah, I know.
But like it's all blue tone after.
I know, but I'm like, I wonder if she just like had to do that because she realized she like made him too likable, and she's like, I need to do some like character assassination of Jacob.
But yeah, so they're fixing the bikes, and Quill and Embry, Jacob's BFFs, come in, and they're just like, I love like the shit-eating grins they have on their faces when they come in. They're like, oh, Bella.
Both in the book and the movie, it's just like they just so perfectly encapsulated like the teenage Rose. Like boy.
Stephenie Meyer knows teenage boys.
Something I never noticed. So they're like talking, and Bella's like, yeah, Jacob's going to fix up the bikes, and then he's going to give me riding lessons. And then it's like Quill muttered something, and Jacob's like, get off my land. And I don't know. It just like took me until this reading to put that together, like riding lessons.
You know, they made some sort.
Yeah, like that's what she said.
So they're all chatting, and Bella kind of tunes out, as is her like modus operandi. It's just not listen to other people.
Very Ian McKenzie information.
It is very like autistic to just be like, oh, I'm not interested in this, I'm just not gonna listen.
Right.
But she's like, I figured I'd have to have a Y chromosome to really understand the excitement when they're talking about like cars. And I'm like, I'd like to smack Bella with a Y chromosome. That's what I'd like to do. Like fuck off. Girls can be into cars, Bella. Like stop with this gender essentialist bullshit.
God. So Jacob's like, they're like, okay, tomorrow we can go shopping for parts. Like we're going to need a lot of parts. And Jacob's like, this could get expensive. I'm talking about more than $100 here. And like, God, would that I lived in a world where like $100 was expensive for like car repair. Although actually, I feel like in the 2000s, like at $100 still feels
they're
like
going to the
me,
junkyard
actually.
too,
But,
and
like,
a lot of it is like stuff Jacob knows how to do. Like car repair parts, I feel like most of the shit for like a basic car is like labor. Like that's really what you're paying for.
Yeah,
most
definitely.
Of the time.
Can I just say that it takes Jacob less than a week to fix up these motorcycles?
Yeah,
like and less than $100 presumably. But Bella's like, I have my college savings, like I have my checkbook.
Yeah, she waves her checkbook in the air as if that's like I guess like can someone who was a teenager in the mid 2000s inform me, like was that a normal thing for teenagers to carry around checkbooks? Because I really
specifically for that.
But like to have a checkbook. I only got a checkbook when I had to start paying rent with I got a checkbook specifically to start paying rent.
And we know she doesn't like use it at the grocery store or something because Charlie has his like food money jar, like cash jar.
Anyway,
well,
whatever.
It's very adventures in babysitting. So you know what?
It's true.
I know that like we've worked out that like assuming this book is in the 2000s, it's in 2004. We'll get into that later. But I still think like this book is 100% written in like the 80s or whenever Stephenie Meyer was in high school. Like that's when it's mentally set in her head. And some things she has like tried to like age up, like having, you know, dial-up internet or whatever.
Email, yeah.
But I feel like it's so much like just like the cultural Comet, cleaning the bathtub with Comet. I watched 2 YouTube videos on how to do that to confirm that you couldn't be up to your elbows in it because it's like a bleach-based powder. But the first video started out with like Comet, a pretty old school method, but it works. So like it definitely is like
no, for sure. Yeah.
So just picture like if you haven't seen Adventures in Babysitting, see that for the checkbook references. But
yeah, Bella's like after the first day of hanging out with Jacob, she like comes home and she's like, "Damn, Jacob just like cleared my depression. Like this is wild." Like after literally and this is just more of the theme. Like once a Twilight character likes someone, they're obsessed with them. Like from minute one. Like Bella has spent 2 hours with this boy.
I get it though.
Who is like 2 years younger than her and is a teenage boy, and she is like, I literally cannot live without him anymore. Like I cannot live with, she's like, Jacob was simply a perpetually happy person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not for long. Time for him to get upset.
This like Jacob Bella friendship, like how quickly it goes, it's like the one like Twilight reaction I can like fully relate to. Like I don't know, I get it. Like that's like the one time that it makes sense. Yeah. For, like I don't know.
Yeah, but Bella, so she really likes her friendship with Jacob, but once again, she's like, she tells Jacob, "Your friends are a lot more interesting than mine." And I'm like, again? They're not even here.
I know, but the way she says
they're not even here. Why do you have to roast them? Once again, they're not even present.
But the way she says it, because he says it first. He's like, "Oh, like I'm sure it's pretty boring for you to be hanging out with like us instead of your like cool older high school friends." And she's like, "No, your friends are more like I don't know." If it was anyone but Bella Cullen saying it, but Bella Swan saying it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if anyone other than Bella were saying it, I would like give them the benefit of the doubt that like they were actually like just making a little joke. But like, no, I think this is fully intended to be just 100% an insult towards her other friends. She's so mean to them for no reason.
So they go shopping, and then that night, which is Sunday, Charlie and Leah and Seth Clearwater and their mom Sue all come over to Jacob's house. Harry. Yeah, Harry's still alive. Yeah.
And they have a pasta night, and I would like to say that Billy Black is a Ragu man, which is the only correct choice. Let me just say, we are not a Prego stance in this house. We are a Ragu, only Ragu, traditional.
R-A-U.
Yeah. Yes, excellent, literally wonderful pasta. And listen, I know there's going to be some people listening to this who are going to be like, no, my Italian grandmother's homemade pasta is the best. And let me tell you something, friends. I hate homemade red sauce pasta with a fiery passion. It is so sweet. I hate the flavor. It does not compare to Ragu. Nothing.
Okay,
no pasta sauce I've ever tasted has ever compared to Ragu.
Can I do this take? Because I feel like this is a touchy subject. Need to be handled with care. I'm still keeping an open mind. There's probably some Italian grandmother out there who makes like amazing pasta sauce that I would actually like better than like store-bought. I just have not encountered that person. Anytime I've had homemade pasta sauce, it's not that it's too sweet. It just tastes like nothing. Okay. And it's similar to homemade brownies. I feel the same way about homemade brownies. Like homemade brownies will only ever be at least like as good as box brownies.
Yeah.
So why would you bother? Like, why go through the effort? Why not just use the like store-bought one? Like, it's
No, listen, if someone like has access to a lot of Italian grandmothers and would like to just like take me on a tasting tour, I'm totally open to that. Like, I'm totally open to going on a pasta tasting tour. Until that day arrives, Ragu and Ragu only. Yeah. Like, even in Italy. Again, we've been to Italy. I've been to Italy twice.
Well, who knows that they weren't just
Ragu
Ragu.
only.
Yeah, we really get the vibes of like just this nice like family get together. Another thing about Leah is that she's described as quote beautiful in an exotic way. Which is, like,
so
Stephenie
racist.
like
Stephenie
Meyer, and anyway,
it's so racist. It's oh my god.
So they go home. Bella checks her email from her mom, and she realizes that the way it reads is just like,
wait, I have the quote. So she reads an email from Renee and she says the whole thing read like a journal entry rather than a letter to someone else. And then she's like, some daughter I was. And I'm like, are you sure that Renee's emails haven't always sounded like this? Because that seems totally in character for Renee. And from the one like verbatim email that we've read from her from the first book, like that was the first, like, it was like, this is what I've been doing. Also, where is my shirt at the dry cleaners?
Right.
Like, I was like, this seems to have always been how Renee does. I don't know why you're feeling guilty.
Yeah. Renee's like, oh, we're planning a second honeymoon trip to Disney World. I'm like, what are the chances that Renee ever took Bella anywhere? And we later find out in this book, they are 0 because before this book, Bella has never been farther east than Albuquerque. Direct quote. So, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so she goes back to school and Bella decides to reconnect with her friends. So she sits down at the table with them and she's looking at everyone around. Mike and Jessica, in case you were on the edge of your seat, they have in fact broken up at this point. Lauren, random girl that was bitchy to Bella and only exists as a character to be bitchy to Bella, has gotten a pixie cut. And Bella looks at her and is like, had all the people she was habitually nasty to corner her behind the gym and scalped her. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Bella.
She's like, what an odd thing for her to do.
When we find out in the Stephenie Meyer bonus content that what happened to Lauren was that she went to a mall in Vancouver, I guess, and she fell prey to one of those like modeling scams where like a quote unquote recruiter like comes up to you and is like, with a haircut and like pictures, like you could be a model. And so like she got her haircut and like put down, and I quote from Stephenie, 15 grand to like pay for the pictures. And I'm like, 15? Does anyone know anyone who actually paid $15,000 for?
Oh yeah, just like Jessica's still not talking to Bella, and Bella's like, oh, could she still be mad? Like I'm like, Bella,
it's been 2 days.
2 days, like what?
Yes,
they're talking about what they did this weekend, and we find out. So Angela, who's like the only friend that Bella actually like is nice to in her head, she's like, oh, well, Ben and I, my boyfriend Ben, who is the little boy, the boy that Edward got them together, we find out in Midnight Sun, because he's like shorter than Angela. So he was like, oh, we can't date. But then Edward was like, I have a crush on Angela, to like make him jealous or something.
God.
Anyway, they were going to go on a picnic, but they saw a bear. And despite the fact that like Jessica and Lauren's immediate reaction is like, oh, Tyler was going on about that too. They're just like immediately roasting poor Angela. They're like, you are so stupid. Like, there are no bears. There definitely are bears in the Pacific Northwest. A. B, like, I don't know. They're just like immediately so mean to her. But then Bella speaks up to back her up. And she's like, no, like there were hikers talking about it at the store. Remember, Mike? And everyone just like stares at her like as if the wall is talking.
Because, it speaks.
Yeah.
And there's like this one girl, I forget. Yeah, that's like new to their friend group. And she's like looking at Bella as if she's like grown antlers or something. Yeah. She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. They're walking out and Angela's like, hey, Bella, thanks for backing me up. And Bella's like, no problem. Like, she's like, what's the date today? And Angela is like, it's January 19th. And Bella's like, that's so weird. It's exactly a year from yesterday. That was my actual first day here. And they're like, nothing's changed much, like deja vu, whatever. But okay, this is where this comes in. So what I have heard commonly is that Twilight is set in 2005, allegedly. Okay, because that's when it came out. Yeah, that's what people say. However, I'm here to tell you that based on internal consistency and logic, that is impossible, because the closest year to 2005 that January 19th would have been a Monday is 2004. However, that still makes no fucking sense, because if her first day the year before was January 18th, 2003 would have been a Saturday, because that's how that works. I know this because like 6-7 years ago, my mom and I decided to memorize the first day of the month, like the day of the week of an entire year, because by doing that, you can immediately know what any day of the week is. It's a very good party trick. But the important thing to note is that, for example, if March 1st is a Tuesday in 2022, in 2023, it will be a Wednesday. That's how that works. It gets pushed forward, except for leap years, but it gets pushed forward twice. So this doesn't make any fucking sense.
This takes place in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. This brings us back to that still doesn't make any sense, because no matter what year it is, Allison, if January 19th is a Monday, January 18th will always have been a weekend day. So unless they're following like a no weekends calendar and forks, like I don't know.
I know, Rachel. I'm getting flashbacks to that time that you and mom memorized all those things, which by the way, this is the first time I'm hearing that this is how you did it because you guys were so fucking annoying. You were so like smug about it. You were like, oh, you know how to quick, ask me what day of the week January 17th, 2012 was. I can tell you immediately, and we're not going to tell you how you did it. I just
told
you. No, you guys refused. And I was like, I know that I can easily Google this, but like, I don't give a shit. But like, they're just acting so like superior about this, like really
because
like,
it
minor
is superior
like, party trick.
It's a cool party trick.
You guys went on about this for weeks. Like you would shoehorn it into every conversation possible, like that you could do this. And I would just be sitting there like, I do not give a fuck.
What's cooler, knowing all the capitals of every country in the world or knowing what day of the week any date in history is? Because I learned both of those tricks that same year, I'm pretty sure.
It checks out. You were in your like obnoxious face.
No, I would still do that. I've like gone back and like refreshed my like ability to do those occasionally. Anyway.
Okay.
With my obnoxious face, it's always good. But are you kidding? I made $430 off my fun facts ability on TikTok. I may not ever be able to withdraw it, but it was made.
Okay, so that afternoon, Bella rolls on over to the Cullen house because she's trying to replicate her hallucinations again. She's like, maybe it was like the familiar stuff. So like the first time was like with my potential former attempted rapist, and like this time I'm just gonna go to Edward's house. And she rolls up to the Cullen house, and so in the deleted scenes there was like a whole subplot in which Eddie Boy like tried to like force Bella to accept like a lucrative scholarship to like colleges, a lot of money. And at one point he sends it to her in the mail, like just envelopes of cash, and then she just like throws it through the window of the Cullen's house. Unfortunately we don't get that. She just rolls up and she's like, the ferns have already taken over the lawn. Like everything is overgrown. But later in the book, when she goes to the Cullens' house, there is no mention of it being overgrown, which implies that the lawn has been cut. And so the only way that I can assume this happened so quickly is either A, that Emmett just like ran back and forth really fast with a lawnmower, or B, that Emmett just like helicoptered his arms really fast and like went across the lawn to cut the grass. Like I can't, like, how else did this happen? Or a third option that I just thought of, Emmett like crawls on the ground like a goat and just chomps with his vampire teeth.
That like are pets,
they
but
would
also
eat
food.
Them. You think that
pets, but also food.
Yeah, but where did they get the goats? The goats weren't there when Bella went there. Again, this is like a fast. They do this in the matter of a few hours. Like how does this happen? How is the lawn cut, Stephenie?
But can I just say that it's a good thing Esme put her foot down, because I guarantee Edward wanted to go the whole hog and he wanted to like bulldoze the fucking house so there would really be no trace. But Esme was like, don't you fucking dare. Like I put my blood, sweat, and tears, metaphorical venom into this. And let's at least save it for like when we puts back to this town inexplicably to like harass the local Quill Drive 60 years from now. So Bella's like, this is a bad idea.
She was like, oh, it's not familiarity. Check that off. Experiment done.
And then she comes home and she's like, I found Charlie had ordered a pizza rather than wait for me. He wouldn't let me apologize. Apologize for what? Apologize for what?
That Sunday, the 25th of January, Jacob is like, the bikes are done. So like literally 8 days.
A week. And 2 of those days they do homework, we find out.
Yes.
And like they didn't work the first Saturday. The bikes take less than a week.
The timeline's insane. Anyway, the bikes are done. They're going on their little riding lesson. And Bella sees people cliff jumping. And she's like, immediately assumes that it's suicide. Like that they're like, that this gang of people is like, is all like consecutively jumping off these cliffs. And then she realizes that it's not suicide, and she's like, oh, I gotta do it. Like
she's like, I've never witnessed anything so reckless in my life.
Perfect.
Can I just say, in the movies they make it make more sense because they show they're like wrestling and like they like are fighting and push the one guy off the cliff, so it does look like, you know, they've just, some people have just murdered a child. Like it makes more sense. But in the book, it's just like, she's just like, excellent. Yeah. Well, I also don't know, did she notice the group at first? Like I feel like she just notices one person like falling from a cliff.
No, she notices a group. Yeah, guys. So who is this group but Sam Yuli's gang? His werewolf gang. We don't know yet. that they're werewolves, but his werewolf gang.
Jacob is like I'm so nervous. Like there's something wrong with them. Like they're always watching me. Like they're just waiting for me to join them. Like they're so fucking annoying. Like last week, like a few months ago, there was a meth dealer selling meth to the kids, and they ran him off the reservation. How dare they?
I'm like, no, but he's like their hall monitors on steroids.
Yeah, but like,
yeah, he's like Embry, Quill, and I used to make fun of them, and now Quill like got sick. Embry like has avoided everyone, like missed a week of school, and like now he's come back allegedly, except for the fact that we saw Embry a week
doesn't
ago.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, when did he miss
Sunday?
School?
When did he come back to school? I don't know, whatever. He's now hanging out with Sam's gang, and Jacob is like, my friend won't talk to me, and I'm worried that I'm next. We also learned the other members of Sam's gang are Paul and Jared, and they're like, we learn, I forget when, I think maybe it's at this point when Jacob is telling the story, but we learn that Paul is 16. Okay. So let's assume Jacob just turned 16 according to like his age, like in the previous book. So let's assume that Paul is like coming up to 17. So like maybe he's a year older than him, but he's still 16 at this point. And in literally like less than 6 months, Paul is going to meet Jacob's adult sister, who's like 20, because she's like a sophomore / junior in college. And he is going to imprint on her, which is werewolf fall in love /
enslavement.
And I'm like, so he's 17, just turned 17 maximum when that happens.
Yeah.
And this adult woman, and there's never
but that is nowhere near to the worst imprinting age gap.
There's plenty of fucked up. I mean, we should have known from the start how fucking weird the age gaps were going to be, because this book, Stephenie Meyer's like favorite play is Romeo and Juliet, and Juliet's fucking 13 and Romeo is 16. Like, you shouldn't, like, Stephenie has no qualms with creepy age gaps with teenagers.
God, yeah.
Anyway,
and when Jacob's like all upset about this, like Bella's like, I'm surprised, because I would have thought Jacob was almost impossible to upset. So it's like Jacob is, just keep in mind previous, like right now Jacob is super even-tempered, like not angsty.
He's super chill. He's very cute. Bring back, I wish he doesn't stay that way. We also get another fucking albino joke, because Jacob is like, wow, Bella, you're so pale. And he like compares like their skin tones, and he's like, are you sure you're not albino? Haha. And I'm like, Stephenie, one wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
So Jacob is like, you know, he's like, I'm scared of the gang. And like, I tried to like, you know, talk about my worries with Billy, but Billy like won't tell me what's going on. He's like, it's nothing you need to worry about now. Maybe in a few years. If you don't, well, I'll explain later. What am I supposed to get from that? Is he saying it's some kind of stupid puberty coming of age thing? This is something else. And I'm like, you know what? It literally is a puberty coming of age thing. And this is literally just like Billy pulling a fucking Violet Bridgerton on steroids. Like Violet Bridgerton not telling Daphne about sex is Billy not telling Jacob that he's about to turn into a fucking wolf. Like, which is, it's just like, it's so much, it's like so, it makes no sense that they don't tell the kids, first of all, especially the kids who are about to become werewolves. Like, but arguably, I would say that the whole tribe has a right to know if they're going to be like living with dangerous wolves. Like, I don't know. It's just so fucked.
No, because it's implied the wolves are super dangerous, because they can like, especially like at the beginning, they can lose their tempers really easily. And if like they're near someone, like that person can get potentially killed.
Yeah. So like why, like Billy does almost get killed. And honestly, he would have deserved it. Because why don't you just tell Jacob, and then you could have like prepared for it. You could have like isolated him or something, or like, you know, mentally prepared him. Billy, I mean, that's just like, it's literal child abuse. It's like, why are you not warning them?
All of the parents. There is not a single good parent in this entire fucking books. Like, not one.
It's like, it doesn't make any sense, because also because it's not like, oh, you can only know about it if you're a wolf, because Billy gets to know. And the reason we know that Billy knows is because he saw his grandfather transform. And we don't know how old he was, but like obviously at some point, like Billy's like, yeah, don't worry, we passed on this like vampire fighting knowledge down from father to son through the generations. So at some point, they, regardless of whether they actually turn into wolves, they were gonna have to tell the kids, like the next generation, they were gonna have to tell them, like, how long were they gonna wait? Like, why are you waiting at this point? Like, they're gonna be wolves. Why wait at all? Unless you're gonna wait for them to be like enslaved to the alpha so they can't give away the secret. But like, you're not enslaved. Like, why are you? It's just so and it's like, Yeah, like Quill's mom isn't going to be allowed to know at all, and even though he's like living with her and like running away all the time, like you're just endangering everyone. And then they get mad at Jacob for breaking the treaty last book by telling Bella. I'm like, maybe if you gave him a reason, like why would he?
Right.
Like I don't understand. Like just or even just or he didn't. They didn't have to show him that the wolves changed. All Billy had to say was like, I literally saw my grandfather turn to a fucking wolf. This is real. And so unless like at that point, unless Jacob thinks his dad is like literally like, you know, hallucinating, like he would believe him.
But also because Jacob is on the verge, he has like this werewolf gene in him the whole time, and he's like slowly like approaching the time in which he's going to transform the whole time. And apparently, oh, we found out where did we find this out? Oh, we found out that the reason it takes Jacob so long, like Jacob should have arguably transformed earlier than this, but the reason it takes him so long is because he's so happy with Bella. And like they transform when they get really upset and like it sets them off. And like that's what like triggers it the first time. Let Jacob be happy. But we get from there's like a bonus thing that's it's not technically from Jacob's perspective. It's like a weird second person, like you like Jacob perspective thing. But we find out that Jacob can smell vampires the whole time because like when Bella starts dating Edward and Jacob like sees her after that, he's like, oh, she's wearing like a perfume and it smells really bad. Like I don't know why she likes it. And like every time he sees her, he's like, oh, she's wearing this like really like weird perfume. And vampires smell bad to werewolves. And like obviously he doesn't smell it now, but like
yeah. And that makes me wonder.
Good one, Stephenie.
That makes me wonder. I mean, I don't think she thought this through really, but like, what about people who have because it's a quote unquote gene, like a werewolf gene. So what about people who have the quote unquote werewolf gene, but they've like moved away from the reservation, so they're not with the rest? Like, what if they just like come across vampires in their lives? Like, are there could I mean, this has been going on for like thousands of years, right? Like, so there could plausibly be like other random like werewolf packs like throughout the world that we just don't know about that are just like or just like singular wolves like on their own. Like,
well, it is implied. It seems to be implied that it's not just like a vampire passes through your area, that it kind of has to be like a prolonged contact with a vampire, you know?
Oh,
and it's the nobody really but the Cullens and Tanya's family in Alaska like stays in any one place long enough.
I mean, we're jumping the gun here, but in like the lore that we're going to learn next book, there's at least one situation where like the vampire walks into the tribe to like avenge her mate and like a little kid or something. Like, I don't know, like someone like turns into a wolf.
But he just gets so upset. He like sees his like papa being killed and he like explodes.
So that could like happen. I don't know.
But sure, but like I'm at like the circumstances of that happening.
Anyway, so Jacob's upset at this point, and Bella's like, if it gets worse, like you can come live with me. And like she hugs him and she's like, it doesn't feel anything like the last time someone had embraced me. This was friendship. It's like, I hate to break it to you, Bella. It was never friendship for Jacob.
And that's one of the reasons that I'm so like Jacob being a dick and like the whole thing like is like so upsetting for me because it's the classic the universal problem that like every woman faces. All of us at one point in our life will have like a guy friend that is only friends with us because they like want to date us. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that's or because they have a crush on it, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just like you're like putzing along thinking that you're friends with this person just because you're having like a normal fucking friendship with this person, and then like they're only with you because they want to fucking get in your pants. Like it's just such a betrayal.
Yeah. I don't think that applies here though. I agree. Like that, yeah, no, it definitely is. I don't think that applies here because I do think Jacob genuinely cares about Bella. Like he's like at least like from his perspective thing, like now, like he just like wants her to be happy and like isn't thinking about he's like, whatever. But also Bella does know that he has a crush on her the whole time. Like it's not like she ever thinks from the very beginning they first meet, she's like, I'm gonna flirt with him to get information out of him because I know it'll work.
Yeah, but she also
and like even in this scene, she's like, well, it was friendship for me.
Yeah, but the thing is that I understand that, but Bella consistently makes her boundaries clear. She's consistently like, that is not something that is in the cards for us, Jacob. Second of all, I don't think Jacob would have continued to be friends with her if he didn't have a crush on her. That's the thing. Like when the vampires come back, when he gets turned into a werewolf and the vampires come back in the picture, if he wasn't like in love with her, and we know he's in love with her, we get that from the Jacob bonus content. If he wasn't in love with her, I think he would have dropped her like a fucking hot potato. I think the only reason he cares about her so deeply is because he wants to fuck her, to like put it crudely. And that's so infuriating.
I don't know. I think Bella's like being really selfish here too, though. Like, I think, like, Bella, like, towards, not now, but, like, a little bit later on, she's gonna be like, I just, like, can't bear to, like, lose Jacob, so I'm gonna, like, twist the truth to, like, make
Sure.
him think that there's a chance, which, like, would have been, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, like, a
No,
very
I mean,
unhealthy
Bella, I'm not,
dynamic.
Bella doesn't act perfectly, but I think Jacob smashes through the boundaries first. And then I think Jacob continually smashes through the boundaries and continually, like, towards the end, like, some of the shit that Jacob does at the end of this book is so manipulative and infuriating. It's like Edward level shit.
Yeah. But that's the thing.
But
It's like
it's
Edward
not,
is
the
always,
thing
yeah.
is no, but the problem is that it's not treated like Edward level shit. At least when Edward's being super manipulative, I feel like for the most part, the book, like, calls out, like, Edward's being super manipulative right now. But Jacob is always presented as like, oh, he's a nice guy, TM.
Yeah.
That's what it's presented as. Jacob is a nice guy, TM.
Yeah.
But he's not. And it's so that I mean, I've said this before, like, it's so much more infuriating to me when you have a person who's an asshole and the book never, like, really calls out the fact that what they're doing is fucked, like, and continues to pretend like they're good. It's the same thing with the fucked up family thing. When you have, like, fucked up families and the book
Yeah.
never acknowledges that, like, this is, like, truly fucked up, and the family, like, and, like, I just feel like at least the book acknowledges that Edward is fucked, like, that he's weird.
I also just feel like, though, because it is Jacob's the one who has, like, stronger feelings, it's kind of, like, on Bella to have been the one to put her foot down and be like, "This needs to end," like, instead of, like, dragging it on, because it's not
What,
gonna
just, like,
happen for
not be
Jacob.
friends?
Yes. Because it's not gonna happen. He has the feel what is he supposed to do? Just not have feelings for her? You can't just turn it on and off, and I feel like once it gets to the point where it's clear that it's never gonna be a healthy dynamic, like, yeah.
Yeah.
You
No,
can't be
again,
friends.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that Bella handles the situation perfectly. I think it's super toxic on both sides. But I'm here for the Jacob slander. I feel like Bella gets enough slander and Jacob doesn't get enough slander. You know
Bella
what I
gets
mean?
slander, but, like, for the wrong
Bella's
things.
constantly is putting herself down. She
Yeah.
constantly feels bad. She's constantly feeling guilty about things that aren't doesn't even need to feel guilty about. Like, she's constantly, like, feels guilty for, like, setting reasonable boundaries. Like, every time she's like, "No, Jacob, I don't feel that way about you." Even at the beginning, she's like, "Oh, I feel so bad about it." And it's like, why? Why?
Because she knows that Jacob has a crush on her, but she won't reciprocate. Yeah, I don't know.
You're not obligated. You're not obligated to reciprocate someone's feelings.
No, you're not, but also, like,
No, again, later on, it gets to the point in which Bella, like, to have it be healthy for both of them, Bella does need to cut it off. But even at the beginning, Bella is feeling guilty for establishing healthy boundaries within a friendship. And that is like,
oh, see, I didn't take it as she feels guilty for establishing the boundaries. She feels guilty for, like, continuing. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's one and the same with Bella. Like, I don't think she differentiates between establishing boundaries and, like, being selfish.
But Bella is, like, she's like, it was strange for me being this close to someone emotionally, not physically, although the physical was strange for me too. It wasn't my usual style. I didn't usually relate to people so easily. And I feel like, I don't know, just, like, this is, like, a running theme of, like, Bella and Jacob, like, actually understand each other, unlike Bella and Edward. Like, for better or for worse, like, they click on, like, a, you know, friendship,
on a personality level.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way that Bella and Edward don't.
Right.
But I also think that, again, like, I think that disappears. Like, I think that stops being the case later on.
Yeah. And Jacob, I guess, like, yeah, because in his POV, he's like, oh, I start, like, noticing things about her, like, that she doesn't notice. I realize I notice. And, like, that's why I, like, know so much about her, which is kind of, it depends how you want to see it. Like, it's either, like, caring about someone, like, wanting to know about them, or it's, like, gathering up little details to, like, manipulate them.
Yeah.
But
that's how I choose to see it. It's unintentional, but I think he's doing it.
It's not unintentional. In his POV, it's like, oh, the manipulating unintentional. Yeah.
I don't think the manipulation is intentional at the beginning. Later on, by the end of this book, manipulation 100%, guns a-blazing, intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So they have motorcycle riding lessons. And Bella is like, this is excellent. Because I have figured out excellent. I have figured out how to trigger these hallucinations.
And it works. And she's like, so the first time she rides it, she's like, Jacob's like, forget the back brake. But Bella, like, immediately, of course, slams on the back brake, which reminds me of the first time that I rode, like, an adult, quote unquote, bike as a kid. Like, as you know, as opposed to, like, a little kid bike where you brake by pushing the pedals back. And I was riding down the, like, quote unquote, big hill in our neighborhood and, like, could not figure out how to fucking brake the bike because I kept, like, pushing the pedals back and it wasn't stopping. Horrible.
That big hill was fucking great. You could go so
hill.
fast down that shit. I went like 25 miles per hour once, like with not even pedaling.
I'm pretty sure I just unlocked the reason why I always ride the brakes going down any hill on like any bike ever. Like that's
Because of
definitely
that one
why. It's
traumatizing.
definitely why, because I couldn't stop and I had to like glide the whole rest of the block like until
Oh
I
my
could finally stop.
God. Oh my God.
Going up the other side. Also, like Jacob's or Bella's like riding and the road's like curving and she's like, Jacob hadn't told me how to turn. I'm like, have you never like ridden a bike, Bella? Or like a car? Like how?
Yeah.
You
I
just
mean,
turn
I
the
was
handles.
willing. I
Whatever.
noticed that too. I was willing to give Bella some slack because I'm like, listen, I've never ridden a motorcycle. I don't know whether it's like more difficult. You know what I mean? Because it's heavier, it's bulkier, you're going
Maybe.
faster. I can understand that there may be like some different technique. So I was like, what? I'm not going to roast
The
Bella for
second
this.
time she rides it, she falls off and crashes into a rock and gets a head wound.
In the movie, it's like Bella's dead. Like, there's no way this girl survives this.
She like crashes over, rolls over several times, crashes into a boulder.
That's a nice boulder. I like that boulder.
She comes over and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm bleeding. And he's like, why are you apologizing for bleeding?
Which is so, like, when you think about it, like, wow. Like,
fucked. Yeah.
The fact that she, like, is trained to apologize for that.
But like, what's even weirder is like I only just realized why it was weird because I always remember hearing that and being like, "What do you mean? Of course you would apologize. You like ruined the day. like
no,
you're injured."
No, Rachel. Oh no.
They're carelessness.
Okay. In the movie, Jacob takes off. He's like, "Oh my God, you're bleeding," and he takes off his shirt. And I just like, it's like a core memory from my middle school years of like Taylor Lautner taking off his shirt and the whole theater going, just like erupting in screams. And poor Taylor. I mean, Taylor Lautner looks like a llama, but he was originally going to get recast for the second movie because they were like, "Oh, you're not big enough." Because Taylor Lautner, I mean, he's not like short, but like he's not like Jacob's supposed to be like 6'5". Like he's supposed to be like super tall, and he's shorter than Robert Pattinson in the movie.
He's only like 5'8",
but they were like,
sure.
he like had to bulk up a lot for this movie. And you and I were talking, we were like, because I mean, we've mentioned it before, like none of these actors, besides like the actors that play Billy and Harry, like none of the indigenous actors are like actually indigenous. And you just know there's like an indigenous like 6'5", like Native American like actor who's like would have been perfect for fucking Jacob, and instead they got Taylor Lautner.
Should I say this? So I was looking up for a TikTok when the like casting calls for Fleur Delacour would have been for the Harry Potter movies, and what kept coming up was they were talking about casting for the fourth movie, and this quote from one of the like casting people or whatever was like, "Yeah, we're trying to cast like Padma and Parvati Patil." And in the book, they're actually written as twins, but it's almost impossible to find identical Asian or like Asian twin girls, like I guess meaning like South Asian Indian. And I was like, I fucking guarantee, like, first of all, you're in the UK. There's no shortage. Also, like, go to fucking India. There's plenty of people who like, what? You just know there's like a set of like identical Indian twin girls out there who are like, we were fucking robbed. Like, we would have been great.
Yeah.
Like,
I
would be
were
so
robbed.
mad.
They were.
No, I would be so mad. And same thing with like the Jacob thing. Like, they were probably like, oh, it's just impossible to find a Native American actor. Like, it's just impossible. Where are they? They don't exist. Sorry. We gotta get this like German guy or whatever the fuck Taylor Lautner
he's
is.
Irish. Yeah, like, that's his main, like, Irish and German ancestry.
It's like every time they have a tall character. I mean, it's not as bad. I'm not gonna like make the comparison, but like the other time I've noticed things like this is anytime a character, a girl is like tall in a book, they always cast like someone who's like 5'7". I'm like, all right, give me this.
Let me have this one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so Bella gets stitches and she tells Charlie that she like tripped and like fell on a wrench in Jacob's garage. But the next day they go hiking. They're like, Jacob's like, we should do something that is not dangerous because Charlie's gonna start thinking that I'm like beating you up in my garage.
Can I just say that this convoluted plan is just like another one of like, it's just Bella's constant theme of convoluted plans in an emergency. Like, she has a bleeding head wound, and instead of like, let's go to the hospital like a normal person, she's like, Charlie's gonna know, so we have to go home and change and also drop off the bikes and then go to the hospital. It's the same as like when they're running from James at the end of Twilight, and like I don't know, my instinct in those situations is always just like run, like get the fuck out. Bella is like, let's stop and go back and pack and have like this whole convoluted like non-emergency thing.
They go and hunt for the meadow. No, this is like the next week, I think.
Oh, wait, no. So this is because the doctor fucking calls Charlie and tells him to like watch Bella. And I'm like, does HIPAA not exist in Forks? Like Bella's 18. I guess like maybe she like never unsigned the forms
Not
that
with
said
the
like they're allowed to
police
contact
chief.
Charlie, but like what?
Yeah. So they're like, okay, let's do something that's like not life threatening. And so they go and hunt for the meadow. And Bella's like, I don't know like how to get there. So like Jacob like pulls out his, I don't know, Jacob I guess is like a map maker. Like he fucking pulls out, he like draws like a radius and like draws all these like lines and like makes all these trails for them. And he's like, we're gonna eliminate these one by one. So they go out to the meadow. And she's like, oh, I've only been there once. And I'm thinking, I'm like, Edward and Bella had this whole soft summer, and Edward never took her to the meadow, like not once.
No.
Are you kidding?
And they're hiking, and Bella's like, Jacob set a vastly different mood than like the last time that I was here with Edward. Like he's cheerful, whistling, swinging his arms. And I'm like, this is just yet another example of like the time with Jacob is like happy and sepia, and like Edward is like cold and blue. Also, Bella's in new boots this whole time. New boots for a 12-mile hike. Like they okay, so that's what it is. So it's Saturday. She had work. Okay, let's say like most generous, she gets off at noon for work. Okay,
she
like,
works at the Newton's outdoor store, so she
let's
got
say
an employee discount
noon
on her new boots.
Yeah, she gets to Jacob's house. Let's say he only spends an hour with the compass map. Let's say they start at like 1:30. Okay, and they walk for like 6 miles, and then they like turn back a bit and then walk back 6 miles. So it's an over 12-mile hike. And Jacob has the nerve to be like, let's save, it's like dark when they get back to the truck. And he's like, let's save hiking for Sundays now. I didn't realize you would be so slow. But like the sun sets. So it's January 31st when they do this. The sun sets in Forks, Washington at 5:16 p.m. on January 31st. Okay. So that would have given them like not even 4 hours to hike max. And assuming a normal walking pace, which is about 20-minute miles, that would have been like barely enough time for 13 miles. But they're fucking hiking. So just like, I don't know. Bella's being unfairly slandered here. He's like, I didn't know you were that slow. Yeah.
Bella's constantly being slandered for hiking skills. And I'm like, that 12-mile hike is like a lot for anybody. For like most people, I would say.
And new boots. Like I would have just like keeled over and died after like literally 5 minutes because you know what? I've done that before. Like I've been there, done that.
Blisters. You're like, I have keeled over and died.
Profusely bleeding from the foot. No, I'm not kidding. Like it wasn't hiking, but it was on perfectly flat ground.
And she's wearing like leather hiking boots. So like that's even worse. Like she's not even wearing like comfy, like breathable hiking boots. Bella's toenails are falling off at the end of this hike. Like that's canon.
I mean, I just wouldn't have a heel. I wouldn't have a heel anymore. My foot would be all toes. Like that's it.
But no toenails, Rachel, because that's what, when you hike a lot in new boots, you don't break them in. Your toenails
fucking
start
ostrich.
To fall off.
Oh my god. I mean, I remember. Yeah, be fast running on your toes. Do you remember like thinking that as a kid? I don't know if
the Naruto run.
No, I don't know if this is universal, but I remember learning like someone telling me that like ostriches or emus are like the fastest animals and they run on their toes. So therefore, me thinking that if I run on my toes, it'd be faster and like trying that. It's just not.
No. Is that why we all have knee problems today?
I didn't do it like routinely. I just like would try it out occasionally. But so they're talking about so also they talk about the bear. Like I think Charlie has like warned Bella about the bear. And like, they chatted about that.
Yeah.
But like Billy is like chill about it. And Jacob's like, bears don't eat people. We don't taste good. Of course, you might be the exception. And Bella's like, he wasn't the first person to tell me that.
God, why does everyone think I would taste good? Like, is it just something about me? Do I taste like mushroom ravioli? Like,
am I the drama? So then Bella's like, okay, time has like been, tripping along more quickly than before, like school and work and Jacob. And suddenly it's Valentine's Day.
Ooh, and they're each other's Valentines.
Jacob gets her conversation hearts, which are one of the worst candies. I don't even think it qualifies as a candy. It's like chalk and heart form, which is still nice. I mean, better than nothing. It's like to be given a nice little gift.
No, don't give me anything because I'm just gonna have to throw them out and feel guilty about it.
God. Jacob's like, will you be my Valentine? And Bella's like, I need to like set the boundaries again. And she's like, when Jacob's like, bikes Friday, she's like, no, I'm actually going to the movies with some friends from school. But then she like immediately feels guilty and like invites Jacob too.
She's like, you can come. So she was gonna get a gang together because Mike was like, let's go out once again, and she was like, no. And he kept trying to like make it a double date. He was like, yeah, we'll invite like this other couple, and she was like, yeah, we'll invite Jessica and Lauren, and like we'll invite our whole
Will and
friend
Embry,
group,
yeah.
and like I'm gonna invite Jacob. So, but they roll up to the theater, and everyone, Jessica and Lauren are like, fuck Bella, understandably, like. Well, not Lauren. Lauren's a bitch, but like Jessica, understandably, is like, fuck Bella.
No more
I'm not
movies with
going
Bella.
anywhere
At least
with
movies with
her.
Bella. Like that's her hard line.
Yeah,
Like,
she's like, I'm not going to movies with Bella. Also, her ex-boyfriend, she's like, I'm not going to movies with Mike.
right,
Like,
yeah.
no. So it ends up just being Mike, Bella, and Jacob. And Jacob and Mike naturally have a dick measuring contest by like shaking each other's hand, and Jacob's like squeezing Mike's hand, and I'm like, whatever. And in the movie, Mike is like, are you even old enough? Because they're seeing like some like R-rated action movie, and
Yeah.
Mike is like, are you even old enough to see this movie? Which, to answer the question, no, Jacob is not. And Jacob is like, well, Bella's buying my ticket because she's 18.
Can I just say, so Bella suggests like naturally the horror movie, and Mike's like, what about this other romantic movie? Rotten Tomatoes gave it a better review. And can I just say, like, good for Rotten Tomatoes, like 16 years strong. Like it's been a staple of the internet since like the
Wait,
internet,
does
you
it
know?
really mention Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes?
Mike says
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yeah, I
I
know.
didn't
Yeah,
notice that.
good for them.
Yeah. So Jacob drives. He rolls up in his
Mhm.
Rabbit, which is the car he's been fixing for the past year. And Bella compares the way she's like so proud of Jacob, and she
He built
compares
it
herself
himself.
to a PTA mom, like a proud PTA
Yeah,
mom
with
for
a
her
kid on the
son. And I'm
principal.
like, oh, Jacob, Jakey boy, like you didn't even
Oh.
get friend zoned. You got son zoned. Like, which is that foreshadowing? Because Jacob will
Oh my
eventually become
fucking
Bella's son-in-law.
god. He built it himself. Yeah, I built it myself. That TikTok sound. That should trigger.
I actually did it
Yeah,
myself.
he built it
Nice.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah. They're sitting in the movie, and this is in both New Moon the movie and in the book too.
Yeah.
It's described as like Jacob and Mike each put their hands on the armrest on the other side of Bella, and in the book they're described as like steel bear traps,
Open and
ready to
ready.
like
Unnatural position.
snap closed if Bella puts her hand.
Bella's like, I pulled my hands back, hoping both their hands fell asleep.
Yeah, but honestly, like that's like so representative of like the high, like I feel like high school like movie hand holding when you're like awkward, like on like a date. I mean, this isn't a date, but like the one movie date I ever went on in high school was like his hand was there, or like I put my hand like on the thing, and then like halfway through the movie, his hand like darts out and grabbed. And then we just like held hands for the rest of the movie, but our hands got so sweaty, and I was like,
Oh, is that where your hand sweat phobia came from?
No, I just never liked hand sweat. Even before then, I was like, oh my God. But I was like, I can't pull away because like he's my boyfriend. Like, can't be a bitch.
So Mike like runs out of the movie halfway through. And so like afterward, so Jacob and Bella like eventually go to like check on him. And this is like there's multiple times in this book, and I'm blanking on the other two, although I know I already mentioned them. But like they're sitting out there, and it's like it's described as quiet enough for us to hear the popcorn popping and the concession in the lobby. And like I just get such a vivid, like you know exactly what that's like sitting in the movie theater when everyone's in the movies, and like you just are it's like the absolute silence, like except for the popping, like just great. Like at that the spaghetti party scene, like
Yeah.
I forget what else. Like it all just gives me like perfect, like immaculate vibes. Like you know exactly.
Yeah.
Like you can put yourself in that. So you are there. You're like transported.
There's a few moments like that in the first. I can't remember any in the first book. I mean, I guess mushroom ravioli, but there's like Stephenie Meyer. Just like there's a few moments where she just like really fucking nails it.
Yeah. And then most of the time I'm like, I don't understand what's going on because I don't understand Bella's reactions, but
good on you.
Yeah.
Stay in character.
Yeah.
And Jacob is like, haha, Mike is vomiting from the movie. But
Like
first
the
of all,
weaker
I can't
men.
imagine from the gore, but like has anyone ever actually done that? Like seen a gory
Bella.
movie and vommed? Seen
No,
a gory
Bella's
movie?
seen gore and vom, like not even
No,
gore,
she
paper
smells
cut.
it.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
It's not seeing like a gory movie. Like, first of all, is that a thing that actually happens? Because
I
it's a
think
thing that's
so.
referenced, and I feel like I've never met anyone who
No,
ever
I
like
mean,
has that type of reaction.
picture like seeing a gross video and then like you can get sick to yourself. I mean, I never have, but like I feel like it's a thing.
I don't know, but I feel like if you have that kind of reaction, like you don't go to those movies. You just don't agree to go to those movies. Because if you have that kind of reaction, like that's like you always are, you know,
well, I
either
just
way,
don't go to
whatever.
those movies
First of all,
anyway.
the second point is like, why are you laughing? Like someone's ill. Like regardless of the
Right.
reason that they're ill, like why are you fucking laughing?
Right. I know. It's
This
a
is like
total
the
dick
albino
move.
joke all over again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not funny. It's a medical condition,
I
like
know.
regardless of what's causing it. And we learn later Mike has a stomach flu.
Right, but in Jacob's defense, he's like undergoing the werewolf transformation as we speak.
Yeah,
Because
he
in
has
his
the werewolf
POV, he's
angries.
like, "Oh, I'm so mad all of a sudden, but I have this like wild confidence and I'm gonna like grab Bella's hand and like, you know, confess my love to her. Like I don't know where this is coming from." And Bella's like, "I don't know where all this confidence is coming from." Like,
yeah, because Jacob, while Mike is puking in the bathroom, Jacob like tries to make a move and he's like, don't worry. He's constantly like, I'm patient. I'll wait for you to like me back. And I'm like, no means no, Jacob. No means no. Stop this. Even Bella is like, Bella, this is one of the situations where Bella like feels unnecessarily guilty and like gaslights herself. She's like, oh, like I have made it 100% clear that I am not going to return those feelings for Jacob, but maybe I should have made it clearer. And I'm like, I don't know how many different ways you can say it. Like she's like, I keep giving Jacob encouragement, and I'm like, no, Jacob's just an entitled dickwad.
but she's also like, "Oh, I don't really want to like say that because he might get hurt and avoid me," which is like shitty on both ends. But like, it's definitely
But that's so fucked up. That's so unhealthy that she's like, she feels like he would dump her, like their friendship would be over if she like, except that I just feel like there's like, she can't be more clear.
Yeah,
of like, sure. I'm not doing that with anyone, not just you. Whatever. We've talked about it ad nauseum. So everyone goes home. Bella goes home and she gets the 24-hour stomach bug, which I first heard of 24-hour stomach bugs like from this scene, and I didn't think they were real. And then like one day, like I got them like 6 months ago. I like just like woke up. It's never happened to me before then, and it certainly hasn't happened to me since. Like I've thrown up before, but it's usually like because I'm hungover or like because I had orange juice as a child, or because I have lemonade as a child. But like 6 months ago, maybe it was less than then. I literally like I woke up, I like worked for like 20 minutes, and then I went to the bathroom because I started to feel sick, and I just like out of the blue, just like stomach bile. Like it wasn't even like I ate anything. Like it was just.
Was it for the next 24 hours? Because I don't think you've experienced like
No, I didn't throw up for the next 24 hours, but I felt sick and I just like had to
Mm.
sleep the rest of the day.
Yeah, because what it is I mean, it happened to me 2 days before the Disney trip, senior year of high school, and they had that threat that was like, if you skip school at all the week before the Disney trip, you will not be allowed to go on the trip. You will forfeit all your money. So I was like literally on the bathroom. I think that's the only time I fainted, actually. I remember because I literally spent the entire day and night on the bathroom floor, like curled up, like throwing up. And then mom came in and was like trying to help me up. And then I forget why, like I was standing up by the door and he left me for like 1 second. And then I just remember being like, oh, this feels so good. And then like the next thing I knew, I opened my eyes and I was on the floor.
Oh my God.
Mom was like, you passed out. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like a nice like falling asleep because it was the first time I wasn't in pain for like the past 12 hours. But then I had to miss school and I was like, oh my God, they're not going to let me go. I'm not going to be able to go. And it turned out to be a fucking empty threat. I was allowed to go.
Like if you're sick, like there's a difference between just like ditching and
and then I could only eat saltines for the first like day of the Disney trip. Hopefully I wasn't so contagious. I didn't really think about that until now. Okay. It had been like a full 24 hours since I had symptoms, but
maybe I never have had a 24 hour.
I don't think so
because
it's just
mine
like
was not like that.
You're just like in constant pain and like vomiting for 24 hours.
Well, I did have that one time when I got that when we were in Nicaragua and I ate the contaminated
that's more like
meat.
it. That's more like
it. I wasn't throwing up. I don't remember. Maybe I threw up, but it was like just a little bit. It was mostly pooping. It was like massive diarrhea.
Yeah, both ends.
Stomach cramps.
Okay.
Like,
no, that you in Nicaragua is what it is. I mean, food poisoning can be very similar.
All right, whatever. Bella goes home and has the 24-hour stomach bug. Jacob goes home and has this little werewolf explosion. But we don't know that yet.
Jacob makes a stupid random promise that he's going to feel compelled to keep, even though no one else even remembers him. He's like, Bella, when he's declaring himself, he's like, Bella, I would never hurt you.
And this promise is referenced once again throughout the book.
A million, but Bella doesn't even remember it. Like, Jacob's
Bella's
the only
like,
one.
You promise. And
no,
I'm breaking my promise again.
Yeah. And Bella's like, what promise? Like it's
like, excuse me. And that is where we are ending. for today because we've been recording for over 2 hours. I don't know, Rachel. I got a lot left. Maybe we can finish it next time.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through my notes.
We'll see. We'll see if we can do it in 2. We thought we could do Twilight in 2.
I thought.
You fool it. You naively, you hoped.
I just like couldn't
perhaps
imagine.
you will.
Where's that from? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Catskills come in sometime whenever we finish. Who knows? Catskills come in to be decided. We'll see. Maybe next week. Maybe it's the week after. You can be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on the edge of your seats. What happens now that Jacob is officially a werewolf? Except not actually a traditional werewolf. He's a shapeshifter. He's just a shapeshifter who can turn into a wolf. Anyway, that's the end.
They can find us on Instagram, Facebook. And that's it now. At We Read It One Night. On Twitter, at We Read It Podcast.
Find us on TikTok. We're reinstated by the time this episode releases.
Yeah. TikTok, TBD. You can email us. We read it one night at gmail.com.
Yep. And to help heal our souls, because we've been permanently banned, probably because of the venomous anger, leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening. Wherever you're listening allows you to do that, because it's a real dopamine boost every time we see those numbers go up.
Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.